Calliope, everybody. Good evening. I hope everyone's doing well. Let me pull up Umineko real quick right now. Because I keep forgetting to do this before I go live. There we go. All set. We're all set for now. Let me just check one more thing. Yes. Got some tea. Got some snacks. Okay, there we go. All right. All ready for today? Let's get started. And put this down. Okay, so it's been quite a while since I read Umineko again. Probably because, well, the story behind that is because the last episode I did was before Easter holidays. And, well, I went to visit my parents during Easter. And I went to watch on Easter Sunday the Sonic 2 movie in the theaters with my mom and my boyfriend. And the theater popcorn or something else from there gave me food poisoning, and I spent a whole week sick, and the next one I also took off for recovering. And then I started streaming again on Thursday last week. But that's been like 3 weeks without Umineko now, hasn't it? So let me see if I can remember what happened last time for the recap. So let's see. We had Ange talking to some guy in a rich hotel cafe something about the message bottles, I think. Then she showed Maria's diary, and he went a little bit, oh my god, I want to see it. And Ange was like, no. And then she left. Then, let me see, I think Amaku's and her decided to rest in a rich hotel where they wouldn't be bothered by Kirie's family. She tried to summon the Seven Sisters of Purgatory, then passed out. We got a flashback sequence where she did the same thing. And I believe that's where we left off last time, exactly there. Oh, let me adjust the volume a little. There we go. Oh, they're playing around. I wonder where they swiped it from. They were fighting over a donut or something, playing around really loudly.
Ange 様は読書をなさってるのよ。少しは静かにできないの？そう言ってるサタンが一番うるさいのよ。沈黙なさい。この愚昧が。
You're both being loud.
ルシファーお姉様の方がうるさいです。文句が終わり？
I was already used to the oldest and third oldest sister arguing with each other. Even though they're both so quick to anger, it's a bit funny how they're both having to hold back a little. They might be surprisingly like each other.
賑やかにしていろとの仰せでしたが、これではさすがに。少しボリュームを下げさせますか？
There she goes floating over the park bench.
気にしないで騒いでてくれていいわ。教室の黄色い笑い声より100倍心地よいもの。
Yeah, absolutely. I bet they're more fun to hear than the stupid classmate girls.
エンジ様は読むのが遅い。マモンは読書が好きなの？ 地味なことが一番苦手そうに見えるのにね。
マモンが司るのは強欲、知識欲にもそれは通じます。ただし独占したがるので、本を与えると人に読ませまいと読書後に焼いてしまうこともあるのでご注意を。
私は誰も知らないことを私だけが知っているのが好き。誰もできないことを私だけができるのが好き。だから勉強は好き。練習、私だけが誰も知らない英知を独り占めしたいから。
Oh, that makes sense. As Manon said that, her eyes sparkling, she peered down at the page that was open and read it through again. You could see the greed that made her convey that page even more thoroughly than I did. As you can see, my magical power has grown much stronger than it was on the first day I summoned them. By now, I've gotten so that I can summon all the 7 sisters of Purgatory at once and still calmly read a book like this. This place, although I can't recall where exactly it is a quiet and calm street side bench. I've been young back then, so I don't remember the details of its location. Still, I remember that my days walking here were a lot of fun. Together with Dad, Mom, and even Oni-chan. It was a memory of a very rare and very happy day when everyone had been together. The people who walked by every once in a while didn't notice me. They just pleasantly ignored me and passed by as though everything was normal. Even the sisters' incredible outfits weren't embarrassing or anything, because it was like anyone was actually watching. Come to think of it, I'm getting pretty used to it, as long as they don't make me wear those. I was sitting on a stylish bench memorizing a timeline for world history. In an academy system where everything is based on collective responsibility, there is no tolerance for dunces. It seemed that I was considerably below the average grade for the class. According to those extremely intellectual girls, if I alone improved my grade, then the average would rise drastically. They had been kind enough to show me with a graph by colorful pens on a B4 sheet of drawing paper. Just thinking of the effort it had been to draw that was repulsive, but I've already spent out all those complaints. I've already voiced my constant and furious anger and sadness to these girls here. The sisters were sometimes indignant, sometimes sympathetic, and sometimes mourned alongside with me. Lucifer mourned alongside with you. I was truly happy to be able to share emotions like that with friends. That's sweet though. It's sad that they were originally furniture that existed to carry out Beatrice's cruel sacrifice ceremony. According to the occult message bottle I hated, it seems that several of them even attacked my family. But I don't believe that, and it's pointless to question them about it. They are furniture, so they only respond to their master's requests. Even if they really did attack my family, I can't hate them. What I really hated was the Golden Witch Beatrice, or else that ringleader of the Ushiromiya suspicion, Aunt Eva.
エンジ様、早く次のページ。
ごめん。疲れたわ。少し休憩させて。
エンジ様、休憩だって。遊ぼう遊ぼう。エンジ様、遊ぼう。
Playing with them. When they noticed that I had interrupted my studying, the most energetic youngest sisters gathered around me. And that wasn't all. Maria! And Sakutaro! Babies! And even Mario, Nei-chan, and Sakutaro showed themselves. Yes, my babies! They had probably been very close by, but they must have hid themselves so that they wouldn't interrupt my studying.
フリュー。エンジェ、お勉強どう？お勉強どう？やー！サクタロー！元気？ちょっと、私にもモフモフさせて。
Oh, he's so cute! I
早い
felt
者勝
that.
ちだっていつも言ってるでしょ。あー、かわいいかわいい。
Yes!
潰れちゃうよ。
Oh no.
うりゃ
7姉妹が揃ってる時に現れたのが運の尽きだ。
Well, she got a point.
おとなしくモフモフされてもらおう。
Even Belphegor is into it. That's really cute.
いっつもこんなにしてしまって。愚昧な姉と妹どもは申し訳ありません。
サクタロもみんなに会えて喜んでるよ。
Yes.
どうエンジェ、お勉強の調子は？
ありがとう。まあそこそこには。ご丁寧にも他のクラスで先にあった小テストのプリントが回してもらえたの。麗しい連帯感に涙が出るわ。とりあえず年表を頭に入れるだけでもまあ多少はマシ。
ウリオン、エンジェお勉強偉い。いっぱい点数取れるよウリオン。お疲れ様。マリア、お勉強は全然ダメだったからちゃんと勉強すれば点数が取れるエンジェが羨ましいよ。
ご冗談を。英語、ラテン語、オカルトの知識、そんなのを丸暗記できてるお姉ちゃんの方がよっぽどすごいわ。
Okay. English and Latin. Oh yeah, Maria also knows
マリア
Hebrew if I
は魔
remember.
法のお勉強は何でも覚えられるけどつまんないお勉強は何も覚えられない。
I felt that
だか
deeply.
らテストでも何も役に立たない。
But English probably helps.
確かにオカルトの知識はどうかと思うけど英語なんかは成績に結びつくんじゃない？
小学校1年生の時国語のテストで鉄砲のイラストの脇に四角が4マスあってそこに名前を書きなさいって問題があった。ライフルって書いたら×だった。
Oh. Oh, that's
どうして？
no.
合ってるじゃない。
鉄砲が正解だって。
Teppo.
カタカナ
Oh.
は小学1年生では習わないからダメだと言われた。
Oh, Maria.
マリアはよくわからないからその日以来テストでは全てひらがなで書くようにしたよ。でもなぜかママには怒られる。先生にも怒られる。
お姉ちゃんは多分生まれる国を間違えたわ。
Hmm.
ならマリア、魔女の国に生まれて魔法学校に入りたかった。
Yes, there is such a school for witches. It's called the witch where the girls from Mahotsukai Precure went to. You can go to that school, Maria. It's probably going to be so much better for you.
そうしたらもっともっと素敵な魔法の友達がいっぱいいたかもね。うりゅう。でも別に今は何も気にしてないよ。だって魔法はいっぱい使えるし魔法のお友達もたくさんいる。マリアにはサクタロがいれば十分だもの。
Let me check something real quick. Okay, this should work. Okay.
僕だけじゃないよ。サクスケもサク吉も動物の音楽隊もアザラシの下田くんもウサギのサナエさんも小豚のピゴーくんも他にもいっぱい。
Incredible. The number of One-chan's friends keeps increasing. Every time I ask, the number of names for her friends grows. There is no doubt that Sakutaro is her best friend. I'm a little jealous of all those close friends.
どう？七姉妹は仲良くやれてる？
本当に賑やかな姉妹たちよ。たまに物騒なことを言い出すけど本当はサクタロみたいな可愛い子が良かったんだけど今は彼女たちと一緒でも十分いいかなって思ってる。
Who would want someone like Sakutaro around? He's so cute.
もっと私の原初の魔法を学んだならきっとエンジェの好みの友達を生み出せるようにもなるよ。今のエンジェに想像はまだちょっと難しいね。
想像と召喚は違う。そして反言もまた違う。
やっぱり一番の願いは 家族を蘇らせること？
うん。よりしろは持ってるよ。これ。
そうだね。その髪飾りならいつかきっとバトラーを呼び出す鍵になるよ。あとはエンジェの修行次第だね。
それがいつまでかかるのかわからないのが泣けるけれども。
ウリュウ、辛くてもしっかり。エンジェが諦めなければ絶対にいつか叶うよ。
Yes, keep believing.
絶対に叶うという保証を誰かがくれたなら、きっと心も休まるでしょうにね。
ウリュウなら僕が保証する。エンジェはいつかきっと必ず願いを叶えられるよ。
ありがとう。気休めでも嬉しいわ。
気休めじゃないよ、ウリュウ。ダメだよエンジェ。そういう感情は半魔法の毒素になるよ。夢は必ず叶うって気持ちが一番よく芽吹く魔力の種なんだよ。
Okay.
そうね。ごめんなさい、お師匠様。
Don't be negative,
エンジ
basically.
様は少し強欲さが足りないのよ。欲しいもののためにはどこまでも。手に入れるまで絶対に諦めないという根性が足りない。ウリュウ、そんなことないよ。エンジェは頑張ってるよ。
ありがとう、サクタロ、マモン。泣き言なんて何の足しにもならないもんね。私にはただ頑張るしか道はないのよ。努力するわ。歯を食いしばってね。そして必ず夢を叶えるわ。
Yes,
絶対に。
I believe in you, Ange.
ウリュウ、エンジェ偉いよ。頑張ろう。
Yes.
僕もママも応援する。ええ、応援します。主が強欲であればあるほど私たちの価値も上がるというもの。それよりエンジェ様、せっかく10人も集まったんだし、みんなでしりとりでもして遊ぼうって提案がありまして。負けたら罰ゲーム。私に耳をかじらせて。
Don't do that.
もうあんたの頭には食欲以外ないの？
Yes, she's gluttony.
グマイどもの愚かな提案をお許しください。
そろそろ勉強に戻られなくても大丈夫ですか？
やだやだやだ。
悪くない提案と思います。たまには遊ぶのも頭の良い柔軟になるかと。
Yes, please play with each other.
ベルフェが司るのはタイダだっけ？もっともらしいことを言ってるけど、うまいことを言ってるわね。
失礼しました。エンジェ様は勤勉でおられる。
エンジェさえ良ければ私もみんなと遊びたいな。
Yes, please join
みんな
us.
でワイワイ。きっと楽しい。フリュウ、エンジェ遊ぼう遊ぼう。みんなでしりとりをやろう。
ではサクタロのウリュウからスタートで、この場合何からになるの？リュ？
Ryu?
ユ？
ウリュウからなんだろうね。やっぱりリュウ？
こんなおかしな語尾の単語が出てくるなんてめったにないし。
じゃあ私が一番。リュウから行くね。時計のネジのリュウズ。
Watch crown, okay?
私が一番に言いたかったのに、リュウトの方が素敵。
図？なんだかさっきから難しいのばっかりね。というか順番どうなってるの？次は誰？
ウリュウ、
Ryu.
誰でもいいと思うよ。
Okay.
思いついた人順でいいよ。何それ、面白いね。
Oh, so anybody can yell
いっ
in,
ぱ
I
い言
guess.
えた人が勝ち。早口しりとりだね。じゃあ私行くね。ズッキーニ、
Yeah. Oh. Food.
ニンニク炒め、
Of course.
メカブのパスタ。どれも美味しそう。3つもいっちゃった。
Okay.
ベルゼ3点獲得。接続詞はありなのか？
のがありになったら何でもありになっちゃうわ。最後のはダメよ。1点減点。目からよ。
Okay, from me.
じゃあマリアね。メレンゲ。
ゲ。
下水道、
Drainage system.
埋め立て地、地下室。ざっとこんな感じ？
Drainage system, reclaimed land, and basement. I wonder if this is a reference to the first chapter where Kanon died.
お姉様、なんだか品のない単語ばっかり。
Oh wait, that was the boiler room, so it would make sense.
何よ。じゃあ品のいい単語で続けてみなさいよ。
Oh boy.
とにかく私3点ね。次はつよ、つ。
こんな変なしりとり初めて。面白い。うりゅう。全然わかんないけど面白い。うりゅう。
I've played normal Shiritori before, but I've never experienced a Shiritori this weird. There's only the lively 7 sisters, Mario-ne-chan, Sakutaro, and me. I'm now surrounded by friends that are so fun to be with. The courage to accept a world of magic, a world of witches, that alone didn't change the fact that I was still locked up in an academy, without a single friend in my class. But despite that, I'm able to have such a fun and lively time. I'll also become a witch like Mario-ne-chan. And someday I'll add my family to this fun circle. Dad, Mom, and Oni-chan. And if possible, George Oni-chan and Jessica One-chan. And the other relatives. I'll call everyone here without a single person missing, and we'll all gather together.
それが私の夢。そうよ。私はそれを叶えるまで絶対にくじけない。
Yes!
エンジ様はきっと大魔女になられます。あなたがそうだと信じるだけで、我ら煉獄の7姉妹はその日まで常におそばにお仕えするでしょう。
いてくれる？いつまでも私の力になってくれる？
当然。だって私エンジ様の友達じゃないですか。
Oh.
そうね。常に全員揃ってみんなで遊びましょう。今もこれからもずっと
エンジ様が夢を叶えられる日まで。
Oh, they're all so sweet together. The lively 10-person game of Shiritori alongside the street cut off from time under the constantly bright rays of the sun could have continued forever. What happened? Something went wrong, didn't it? Oi, Yupi, tudo bem? Oi!
どういうわけ？
tudo bem?
後宮さん。
Eu tô bem. E você? Good evening, Yupi. Hi, Komamaro. How you doing? Uh-oh. In the end, I wasn't able to get a very good grade on my test. I tried memorizing things my own way, but if you could manage anything by cramming the night before a test, no one would ever worry about
あらか
tests.
じめ問題が分かってたら普通楽勝じゃない？楽勝。
さすがの私たちも空欄に答えまでは書き込みませんでしたわ。その程度はお勉強してくれると信じてましたから。
Doing good. Hope you are too. Yes, I am. I am chilling. I was having a good time, and now it seems like I'm gonna have a sad scene and I'm going to die. Ready for the emotional roller coaster of Umineko? I'm not. Pegando o almoço um pouco tarde, 15 horas agora no Brasil. Oh, já é tão cedo assim ainda, aqui já são 8 da noite.
何これ？ちょっとマジこれ信じらんない。ほとんどダメじゃない。あんた本当にちゃんと予習したわけ？
一応。
Caramba, 8? Nossa, time zones.
一応ってレベルじゃありませんことよ。 ここまでひどいと私めまいすらしそうですわよ。
No, leave her alone!
神よ、こんな簡単なテストすら無残な成績を残し、クラス全体の平均点をガタ落ちさせる彼女をどうかお許しください。
Oh, there's such a thing as an average score? Oh man, this school is hell. The same test had been given in another class first. The test paper had been obtained, so the average score of our class had been unusually high, enough to obscure my slight improvement. However, there were some things I had no excuse for. If I'd spent that entire day studying like mad, I might have been able to get a slightly higher score. But I hadn't gone that far. After that one day, I spent the whole time having fun playing Shiritori with the 7 sisters, Sakutaro and Onechan. As expected, the winner had been Maria Onechan. She was a strong player thanks to her wide knowledge of trivia. Sakutaro had gotten the punishment game. He spent the whole time cheering for everyone else's answers, completely forgetting to think of any himself. Oh, poor Sakutaro. Because of that, he'd been squished by the 7 sisters and had his ears thoroughly nibbled, hadn't he?
ねえ、聞いてる後宮さん。
No, leave her alone! They were surrounding me, twittering like small birds. They were annoying, smelly. On the outside of that circle was Mammon, an exasperated expression on her face.
相変わらずおかしな学校ね。自分の成績が良かったなら万々歳じゃないの？
連帯責任とやらのせいでしょ。彼女らにとって自分クラスの平均点が低くて恥ずかしい方が問題なのよ。あるいはその結果、罰則として与えられる奉仕活動が嫌で仕方ないのかもしれない。
Oh my god, what the actual fuck is wrong with this school? Nesses dias passados eu fiz umas lives de Jedi Fallen Order e zerei em 3 lives. Pena que eu não guardei a missão na lua de Nan, a sede dos Inquisidores, pra ontem no dia do May the Force be with you. É uma pena mesmo.
それってつまり成績を良くしたいから勉強してるとかじゃなくて、連帯責任や奉仕活動が嫌だから勉強してるって意味？
That's poor motivation.
妬ましくて恥ずかしいのよ。誰かより劣りたくない。恥ずかしめられたくない。そんな気持ちだけが彼女らを勉強に駆り立ててる。勉強がしたければ勝手にすればいいのに、騒がしい奴ら。
つまるところ、連帯責任も奉仕活動もなければ彼女らは勉強などする気もないわけだ。勉強の意味も知らず勉強することのなんと愚かしいことか。
しかし本当にこいつらはうるさくてバカバカしい。
I felt that. Can you
エンジ
please
ェさん
stab
の
them?
貴重な昼の一時を邪魔するなと言うのに。
こいつら嫌い。早くどっか行っちゃえ。お腹すいた。早く消えちゃえ。
ごめんね、みんな。人間ってのはどうしてここまで浅ましいのかしらね。
Oh shit!
自分で努力するよりエンジ様に努力させる方が楽で強欲に平均点を稼げるってことでしょ。
Ué, demônios da alta patente com waifus colegiais? I guess.
人間なんてみんな強欲。
É totalmente normal.
そしてより楽なようにそれを強いる。
Acho.
こいつらとはやがて煉獄の山で再会するわ。第5巻を抜けるときはせいぜい己が足元に注意することね。
Maman controls the 5th terrace of the mountain that reaches to heaven, Mount Purgatory. Since she's saying this, you can probably be sure that after those girls die, their journey to heaven won't be an easy one. No, on the contrary, let them just fall into hell. The class committee went to the student council and applied to use a classroom during lunch and after school. The purpose of use was for a class study group. A wonderful little gathering so that they could all surround me and make me study. I'm so grateful, I could cry. Which meant that every day, all of my lunch and 3 hours of my afternoon would be stolen. The Academy and its student council, with its theme of student self-government, instantly approved of this pleasant activity that the students were taking up of their own initiative. In other words, I was no longer able to escape after school by leaving the classroom. After school, the first class study group meeting started right away. Would they open a textbook, then kindly and carefully explain so that even I could understand it? Of course, it didn't turn out like such a naive illusion. After school in the classrooms, dozens of my classmates crowded around my desk. First, before we started studying, why were my grades so bad? What was the reason? It was decided that we couldn't start until I could clearly answer those questions, became aware of the problem, and show regret for my actions. Of course, there's no way for me to respond when asked a question like that. They've loathed me all this time, and they've rejected me and kept me at a distance, preventing me from joining in on their community. So I've avoided their community myself. There shouldn't have been any conflicts for either of us that way. So even in this group that was enthusiastic about raising the class average, they obviously kept me at a distance. Even if I tried to join in, they would probably ignore me, like they always did in the past.
言ってくれれば私たちいくらでも教えてあげたよ。
Why are you lying? You liar! 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 I'm mad. I'm mad. I hate these girls. They were getting themselves all worked up. I've already had enough of the hypocrisy of their tacked on excuses.
後ろ宮さんの悪いところはね、協調性がないところなのよ。自分さえ良ければいいって思ってる。その考えがいけないのよ。
Fuck off! Fuck off!
セールチーヤの学び屋に集う者は協調の心を持つように。
Someone needs to set her pants on fire. Yes, someone does. Maman sounds like she has a bone to pick with like the whole of humanity. Yeah, at this moment, I do too.
ちゃんと生徒手帳にも明記されてましてよ。協調性があればクラス全体に貢献するために一緒にお勉強しようという意思も生まれると思うの。そここそが後宮さんにねえ、さっきから私たちの話を聞いてる？あなたのために私たちはわざわざ放課後に残ってこうしてお話ししているのよ。
No, you didn't. You stayed behind just to insult her. Fuck off. I want to wrangle all their necks. I'm so grateful I could cry. Of course, they didn't like that. This way, it almost makes it look like... we're bullying you. They reprimanded me. But you are bullying her! This is literally the definition of bullying! You little shit! Fortunately, I'm normally all cried out anyway. If I'm told not to cry, I can hold it back. First, I was made to write a letter of remorse and read it out loud. Of course, this was to be done by today. The class committee politely applied to the student council and the staff room for an extension on the use of this classroom. It seems like it was accepted right away, which means that starting now, I'll be forced into self-criticism for at least full 5 hours here. Ushiromiya Ange got a low score on her test and caused trouble for her classmates.
違うでしょ？成績が低くて迷惑をかけたってのは根本じゃないでしょ？
協調性でしょ、協調性。
もうなんで後宮さんの反省文の書き方まで私たちが指導しなくちゃならないのよ。
Oh, I'm so mad right now! Their abusive jeers flew about one after another. I followed their directions and erased it. Ushiromiya Ange didn't have a cooperative attitude and caused trouble for her classmates.
ねえちょっと私たちが言ったのをそのまま書いても意味ないのよ。あんた反省って意味分かってんの？
自分の言葉で書かなくちゃ意味がないじゃない。
後宮さんってちょっと不思議な子だなって思ってたけどやっぱり変わってるよね。
You assholes are weird! Ooh, I'm not okay. Even following their directions didn't change the jeers much, and now it felt like they were mocking me even more. I want to punch the thing! So for several more hours without rest, without even being allowed to go to the bathroom, much less dinner, I was continuously abused. I was coerced into writing a paragraph that humiliated myself. I am so mad. I'm so angry. Oh! At about 9 that night, I was told to stand up and read it out loud. The contents were smeared black with tears and eraser marks. It certainly was my handwriting, but it was like a list of soulless letters, whose contents I couldn't even remember. Everything had been copied down according to their orders, so while I had been the one to write the letters, they weren't my words. I'd been coerced into writing them down, and even coerced into writing them aloud. Even after all this time, I was surprised to learn that, beyond just ignoring people and hiding their things, there are other ways to bully people.
ほら早く読み上げなさいよ。
God!
後宮さんのためにこれだけの人間がこんなに遅くまで付き合ってるのよ。少しは感謝したら？
I'll thank you in hell.
そこで感謝の気持ちが湧かないという時点でもう協調性がかけらほどもないのよね。
大丈夫よ後宮さん。これからは私たちがいつも一緒にいてあげるから。一緒にお勉強して生まれ変わりましょうね。
No! As I stood by my seat, surrounded by them, I dropped my gaze towards the blackened page. And then I spoke those humiliating words, but right away, ears flew at me saying that they couldn't hear and to speak up. I can't read it. I had no idea that being forced to read a paragraph humiliating me would be so painful. My throat shook. My fingertips shook. The paragraph of humiliation written in my own handwriting made my eyes burn with a hot liquid. So my words blurred out and twisted. I saw the girls surrounding me twist and bend. I saw them twist and bend into the impression I had of them. In other words, that was my true field of vision. Beyond that twisted crowd of people, I could see my friends. Compassion could be seen in all of their eyes.
エンジェ、しっかり。ウリは。
Mario, Nechan, and Sakutaro were looking at me with sad eyes. Probably because they realized that even cheap words of compassion would hurt me. They kept alternating between trying to say something and hanging their heads.
なんなのよ、こいつら。最低のやつら。腹渡が煮えくり返るわよ。エンジ様を寄ってたかってなぶり物にして何が楽しいわけ？
妬ましくても吐き出せないエンさん。誰でもいいのよ。吐き出せればね。
Oh!
最低のやつら。
Yes, I agree.
エンジェ様。
Stab the ball!
ここはご自身の名誉のために怒り狂うことが許される場面です。怒りは正当な感情で正当な反応。ここで怒らなかったらどこで怒るんですか？
Yes, I agree. Get angry.
やめなさいよ。安っぽくエンジェ様を怒らせないで。それができたらもうやってるわよ、エンジェ様は。
怒って状況が改善できるならそうすべきだ。だが客観的に判断してそれはますますに状況を悪化させるだけだろう。屈辱的だが今は耐えるのが賢明だ。
さすがベルフェネーは怠惰やってふざけないでよ。私は耐えられない。こいつらが許せない。みんな
Yes,
騒がな
my
いで。
feel. I can't forgive them
エンジェの
either.
負担になっちゃうよ。負担？何言ってんのよ。ここは騒ぐところでしょ。私たち家具は主が侮辱されているのを見て冷静でいられるほど残酷じゃない。
エンジェ様、そんな侮辱の文章を読む義務はありません。怒りの声を上げられないならせめてその屈辱の文面を床に叩きつけて。
Yes, do it.
口汚く罵らなくていい。のけぞらせるほどの大声を上げなくていい。
Stand up for
ただ渾身の
yourself.
力でそのノートを床に叩きつけて。それだけのことでエンジェ様は強い意志を示すことができる。
勝手なことを言わないで。言ってるでしょ。それができるもんならエンジェ様だってとっくにやってる。
一時の感情の爆発は何も解決しない。むしろエンジェ様に対する風当たりを悪くするだけだとなぜわからん。
I hate it too!
今夜だけじゃないわ。今日も明日も明後日も
They're going to do this every day. Let her
いい加減
out.
にしてこんな屈辱耐えられない。
ねえ、私たちの話本当に聞こえてる？
Someone tugged at my hair. I was torn back into my tragic reality. I was no longer even permitted to listen to the Seven Sisters speaking on my behalf in my heart. My hair was twisted upwards. One of my hair ornaments came off, and I could hear the sound of it rolling on the ground. No one picked it up. To the contrary, they casually avoided it as though something filthy was rolling towards them. I tried to follow it with my eyes, but my hair was tugged upwards again.
なんで
No!
私たちがこんなに真剣に話してるのにいつも聞いてないわけ？
No!
右の耳から左の耳ってやつ。それとも馬の耳に念仏かしら？あんたいい加減にしてよね。
私たち全員に迷惑かけてるって自覚本気であるの？私たちに言われてるからいやいや書いたとか言い出すんじゃないでしょうね。
あんたが本当に自分の意思で反省できるまでマジで終わんないからね。今日だけじゃないよ。明日も明後日もマジで続くからね。あんまり舐めてんじゃないわよ。
つう
Oh,
かさ
please just beat all of
な
them
んで
up.
まだ生きてんの？生きてられる？普通。私なら死んじゃうね。
生きてられないよね。だってさ、生きてるだけで迷惑かけてるだけでしょ？私だったら絶対に生きてられない。
うんうん。私だったら死ぬね。その方が世の中のためになるならすぐにでも死んじゃうよ。ねえ。
じゃあ死んでよ。
Yes! Do it!
エンジ様？
こいつら全員今すぐ殺してよ。あんたたルシファー聞こえた？あんたたち煉獄の七姉妹は人間なんかあっという間に皆殺しにできるすごい核なんでしょ？ならやって、今すぐこいつらを皆殺しにして、
I felt that.
今すぐこの場で。
それは
For some reason, Lucifer
なん
hesitated.
で？どうしてよ。目にも止まらぬ速度で飛び回って魔女の敵の心臓を即座に貫く必殺の家具でしょ。そしてそれを主である私が命じてる。今すぐ実行しなさい。殺して、こいつらをみんな殺せ。
エンジェ様、どうか落ち着いて。
If they had immediately followed my brutal order, making heaps of corpses with me at the center, I was ready to reflect on my own reckless action of stealing human lives so readily, ready to regret and repent just as they had wanted me to. I was prepared to do that, and yet Lucifer just let an unsure expression rise to her face and didn't move to carry out my order. Uh-oh. I knew it. Yeah, I knew it. Vaguely. No, that's not right. I've known from the beginning. I've known that magic was all empty this whole time, haven't I? Oh no. Oh no.
何が煉獄の七姉妹よ。
Oh, I think this is where stuff will go wrong.
仕方ない。
Uh-oh.
私、最初から知ってたんだから。
Oh, this is when she renounces magic, I see.
エンジェ様。
I glared into the worthless Lucifer's eyes, and pain seemed to accompany that gaze. As though she was being assaulted with a violent headache, Lucifer grasped her head with both arms. But it looked like she couldn't tear her eyes off my gaze, so she was assaulted with pain that grew more and more violent. People said, yeah, that's the feel. And she's gone.
役立たずが、役立たずが。あんたなんて大嫌い。消えてしまえ。あんたなんて所詮私の中の妄想じゃない。
Hopelessness and disappointment, resignation and a dream's end, a cracking sound like you'd hear from a frozen lake surface during a fierce winter rang out just once. At the same time, Lucifer's form, which was being tormented by a violent pain, stiffened in place and grew cloudy. It was almost as though a beautifully polished glass window had been hurtlessly smashed and turned white from the countless fissures. And that was an accurate analogy. At some point, Lucifer's form had turned into a glass ornament of the same shape. Countless fissures ran through it from the inside, and as they head and arms collapsed, it crumbled on the floor. Oh, we're getting Golden Slaughterer now?
知女は誰？レビアタン？私の命令を実行して、今すぐにこいつらを皆殺しにして。
そのエンジェ様。
And she's next.
お気を沈めてお聞きください。私たちはその。
Uh-oh. Ouch, that looks painful. Oh boy. We're in it now, folks. Oh boy. Golden Slaughter, all 7 sisters at once. I'm not looking for excuses or bad talk or an answer. I want nothing more than a swift confirmation of my order to eradicate the girls who are humiliating me. If you're going to say anything else, there's no need for me to listen until the end. After Leviathan also turned white due to the countless cracks throughout her whole body, she fell over backwards, splitting into separate parts along her neck, hips, and arms. If she'd been smashed to bits and lost her original form, it probably would have been seemed so brutal. When I said emotional roller coaster earlier, I didn't really mean it. Well, we're in it now. So seeing the 2 of them halfway left over made the remaining younger sister shake even harder.
どうして私の命令を聞いてくれないの？どうしてよ
！Well, at this point in time, I guess the sisters think murder is not okay.
現在のこの場は反魔法力が非常に強く。
And she's done.
何よそれ？人間がいるからダメってどういう理屈？人間を殺すのがあんたたちの役目でしょ？それができないならあんたたちは何のための家具なのよ！死ね
！And dead.
お許しください。エンジェ様。
Well, she's certainly massacring someone. As she clutched her head with both arms, Satan also turned white and fell down face first. Apparently the neck is the most slender part after all. Her head slid off and rolled over to Belphegor's feet. Jesus!
人間が多いからダメなの？じゃあ私が後でこいつらを一人ずつ物陰に呼び出せたなら、あんたたちはきっちり全員を血祭りにできるというの？
現在のエンジェ様の魔力では私たちと会話する程度はたやすいでしょう。
But
しかしこの場にいる全ての人間の前で権限するにはまだまだ魔力の連成が足りません。お怒りは深く理解できますが、たとえ我らを攻撃に使えたとしても。
Ange is in a rip and tear kind of mood. Yes, she is, and oh
この
boy!
場の全員を殺害することはかえって状況を悪くするだけです。
7 people!
屈辱的とは思いますが、どうかこの場は怒りを収められて。
And she's dead. Ay ay ay! Oh boy, Ange! This isn't looking
あなたの他人
good!
も同じ答えなの？反魔法力が高いからできないっていう？私に魔力が足りないからできないっていう？なら全員を殺せとは言わないわ。たった一人でいいから殺してみなさいよ。今すぐこの場で。
They're all gonna say no. As Asmodee and Beelzebub held each other, they crouched down, cringing in fear under my glare. If they'd been able to obey my order, they probably would have carried it out immediately. And yet here they were, crouching down, empty, sad, and pathetic. That's right, I've known. These girls can't even touch reality with one of their fingers. Oh boy! The sisters are usually all fighting each other, and this one time, these two, at least, are trying to be there for each other.
死になさいよ、使えない家具。どうして生きてるの？生きてる価値がないのに、なんで生きてるわけ？
Oh god, that's a little bit mean,
死ねば
Ange.
いいじゃん。死になさいよ。というかむしろ死ね。
使い道のない家具を置いとくバカがいると思う？
And they're both dead.
やめてください。
Oh no! Is she going to leave Mamon last?
何マモン、あなただけは私の命令を遂行してくれるの？そうよね、私の一番のお友達、あなただけはやってくれるわよね。
I'm sorry to say, she probably won't.
こいつらを
今のエンジェ様には私たちを刺激しても人殺しはできません。主にできることを手伝うのが家具の役目。主にすらできないことを私たちにはすることができない。エンジ様はこいつらが憎いですか？憎いですよね。殺したくなる気持ちよくわかります。ええ、どうぞ。ならば殺しましょうよ、エンジ様。エンジ様自らがその手を血に染めるならば、我ら煉獄の七姉妹どこまでもお供しましょうとも。どこまでも。
私にいないからあんたたちに頼んでるんでしょ？
Well, I guess you can't do that.
私にできないことをできるからあんたたちは家具なんでしょ？
Well,
家具です。使われてこそ家具です。どうぞ我らを使って殺してください。殺すのはあなたです、エンジェ様。エンジェ様が殺したいと言うならどうぞご自由に。ためらうことはありません。どうぞ今すぐにそれを実行。
Mamon is actually handling this better than everyone else.
そこまでの覚悟が
She
伴っ
knows
て初め
exactly
て
how. She knows exactly what needs to be done to get her wishes going.
自らの手を汚す覚悟があって初めて。でもエンジェ様はそれに至っていないんです。
語るな家具が。
I didn't expect such a laugh from Ange. Jesus.
もう分かってるわよ。皆まで言わせないでよ。あんたたちには何もできない。あんたたちは所詮私の妄想、幻想、アクチューム。私には初めから友達なんて一人もいないわ。孤独な私が心の中に生み出したお友達ごっこの幻影でしょ。
Oh, so is this why Ange also talks the same way with Maria?
知ってた
That
のよ
makes
最
sense.
初から。
ええ、そうですよ。エンジェ様の頭の中の幻想ですけど何か？
Oh, okay.
はい、そうです。私たちは友達のただ一人もいやしない。寂しい寂しいエンジェ様の心を慰めるためだけに生み出されたお友達ごっこの脳内妄想ですが何か？見たければ現実を見るといい。私たちなんか見ないで。あそこで囲まれて罵声を浴びせられているあなたに戻るといい。
Oh, snap. Damn,
ほらほ
Mamon.
ら戻りなさいよ。お帰りなさいな現実に。都合のいい時だけ私たちを呼び出してお友達ごっこで。自分の手を汚す覚悟もないくせにそれをけしかけダメと分かったら否定して消し去る。
Shit, Mamon is going in.
ええ、どうぞお楽しみくださいよ。エンジェ様が期待されるような苦悶の声と悲鳴を上げて退場しますとも。エンジェ様がたった今浴びせられている罵声を私たちにも同じように浴びせかけて胸の内をスーッとさせるがいいです。それもまた家具の役目。ムカついて床に叩きつけられることもまた椅子の大事なお役目ですから。
Makes sense.
その程度のことで主の不機嫌を一時でも受け止められたなら家具としてこれほどの栄誉はありません。殺しなさいよ。否定しなさいよ。あなたの最初で最後の友達を。
Oh man, Mamon. At the end, Mamon had a mocking expression on her face, but for some reason it was splashed with tears. Aww. Mamon Beelzebub and Asmodeus were smashed and fell to the floor. Oh man. Oh man, Ange went on a killing spree. Oh no, please, no, not Mari and Sakutaro. Leave them alone!
こっちへおいで、サク太郎。今のエンジェは少し冷静じゃないだけだから近寄っちゃダメだよ。
みんなは 7姉妹のみんなは生きてるの？
Um,
死んじゃったの？
yeah.
大丈夫だよ。とても無残な姿だけど、あれは人間界を強制退去させられて残されたよりしろの残滓。抜け殻だよ。
Little one, you good? Yeah, you good? Please stay. Also, hi Zahiru. How are you doing?
だから大丈夫。
I just watched a lot of
とて
murder
も傷ついただろうけど、
and a lot of
無事だ
hurt
よ。
and Ange.
みんな生きてるよ。きっといつかまた会えるよ。ウリュ、よかった。よかった。
Maria, Sakutaro, please go.
Ange
Be
は
safe.
マリアージュ・ソルシエールの条約に違反した。同盟の魔女はお互いを敬い認め合わなくちゃならないのに、みんなエンジェの大切なお友達だったのに。
Maria's denouncing her. Oh my god.
そんな魔女の同盟なんて関係ない。魔法のお友達？いい加減にして。私が殺したわ。消し去った。私が7姉妹を砕け散らせた。
ウリュ、そんなのひどいよ。ひどいよ。
もう魔女ごっこはいい加減にして。お願いだから。マリアお姉ちゃんもサクタロも自ら消えてほしい。
No!
私が殺して消したなんて
No,
妄想の中ですらしたくないから。
僕たちは妄想なんかじゃないよ。エンジェのお友達だよ。ウリュ。
Sakutaro said that as he hid behind Maria Oni-chan, sobbing. No! Sakutaro doesn't exist. Sakutaro is also an imaginary creature Oni-chan created to distract herself from her loneliness.
ウリュ。痛い。痛いよ。マリ
No! Leave Sakutaro alone!
ア。なんでウリュ。やめて。私のお友達を否定することだけは許さない。
The same power that had smashed the Seven Sisters was probably eating in Sakutaro as well, but Mario Nechan was apparently protecting him with some other power. So Sakutaro's form didn't break and scatter. One-chan glared at me sharply. It was a serious expression that I'd never seen before.
サクタロは私の家具。エンジェには消せないよ。なのに否定しようとするのは魔女にとって最大級の侮蔑も同じだよ。
Oh.
サクタロなんて最初から存在しないわ。ただのライオンのぬいぐるみ。それをお姉ちゃんがあたかも存在するかのように脳内で妄想して人格化したただの幻なのよ。
Good, let the hate flow, embrace the human side. But I don't want to embrace the human side. Being human is boring. I'm not okay with this. Don't hurt my Sakutaro. I'm not okay with this either.
そんなことないよ。サクタロはマリアのお友達なの。
Please protect him,
本当はぬい
Maria.
ぐるみだけど、今はぬいぐるみじゃないの。
いいえ、ぬいぐるみだわ。
Ange,
布
stop!
と綿でできたぬいぐるみ。
Please stop!
自ら喋れも動きもしない。お姉ちゃんはそれを腹話術みたいにして喋ってるだけじゃない。それが魔法？それが魔女？それが友達？そんなの私は認めないわ。
Oh man.
ウリュ、僕じゃないの。
No! No! Stop!
ただのぬいぐるみで本当は喋れなくて。
No, 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 no,
マ
no.
リアの
No, 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 no. No, 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 no.
ないの。
Please stop.
リュウ。
As the foe struck with a high fever, Sakutaro weakened bit by bit. As he clung to Mario Nechan's body, he did all he could to continue standing, but his body began to gradually slip down. As he did, One-chan held him, yelling at me as the tears streamed down her face. No! How could you?
やめて。いじめないで。侮辱しないで。否定しないで。マリアお姉ちゃん変なの。サクタロなんかいないよ。
Oh, is this a flashback?
ぬいぐるみはぬいぐるみだもん。
Uh-oh.
布と綿でできてるってママに習ったもん。歩いたり喋ったりなんかできるわけないよ。
Well?
うりゅ。サクタロウ、サクタロウ、ぬいぐるみじゃないもん、ぬいぐるみじゃないもん、友達だもん。
Oh no. So this was an actual flashback. Ange! Why? Don't laugh at her! Stop!
ぬいぐるみ遊びなんかよりみんなでお外で遊ぶ方がいい。ぬいぐるみもう飽きた。
Oh my god, Ange! Why?
返事なんかもう知らない。なんでそんなこと言うの。嫌い嫌い嫌い嫌い。
Oh boy, Ange, if you get Mario's scorn, well, then you fucked up permanently.
絶好だ絶好だ。もう魔女の仲間になんか入れてあげない。原初の魔女見習いマリアの名において魔女見習いエンジェをマリアージュ・ソルシエール魔女同盟より署名とする。
Oh man, Ange! And then, what had been peaceful days to me became a daydream and ended. But now it's impossible to prove. No one can verify whether that really was magic or whether those really were my friends, or else nothing more than a daydream. I, the sole observer, concluded that they were a daydream. So that became the truth. Perhaps in the farther future I'll observe it again, and when that happens maybe I'll acknowledge that it wasn't a dream, that the seven sisters really were my friends, and that along with Mario, Nechan and Sakutaro, they did everything they could for me in my isolation. Something so vague is neither the truth nor an illusion. Maybe the reality here and now is the only world with the real me. Where is the real me? Oh man, that was a lot. The person standing amidst the girl's exposed wreckage that resemble broken glass furnitures. That girl who's breathing harshly, her shoulders heaving, isn't me. I'm over there. The me that's surrounded by a crowd and being showered with jeers and who's hanging her head, her red eyes. Isn't the me over there. The real me? I won't dream anymore. Because there's nowhere left to run. I'm going back. I'll return myself to the cage made of flesh.
ねえ、話聞こえてますかしら？
St. Lucia is a magical place. It made girls spark with hate. Oh yeah, they sure did. I get angry
いつま
here.
でもうつむいていても何の解決にもなりませんわよ。
Fuck them up, Ange. Fuck them up.
てるわ。ああ、やっと返事した。
No!
このまま黙ってれば終わるとか、泣けば許してもらえるとか、そういうこと考えてるんじゃないの？あんた、自覚あるかって聞いてるのよ。自分が周りに迷惑かけてるって自覚があるのかって聞いてんのよ。
I slowly nodded. I acknowledged it. No! I acknowledged that I slipped into the world of my daydream, trying to remain separate from the others in my class. To separate myself from and disgrace those sisters who spoke to me with reliable and kind words, despite being totally unable to help when I really wanted them to. I acknowledge that.
私、後ろ宮エンジェは
No!
協調性がなくてクラスメートに迷惑をかけました。
This is a big
そ
defeat.
れは勉強ができないためクラスメート全体に対し過度の劣等感を持っていたからで
Oh no, I hate this.
私は生きてても仕方ありません。
Starting there, I was no longer reading the paragraph they'd made me write. It was me improvising, and it was what was in my heart. They noticed that it wasn't what they'd anticipated, but while they did frown, no one spoke. So I continued.
そうです。私は生きてても仕方がなかった。1986年のあの日に。なのに、私だけが連れて行ってもらえなかった。どうして私はここにいるのでしょう。ここは私のいる世界じゃない。誰も助けてくれません。一時 私の中に生まれた架空の友人たちだけが私を助けてくれるような気がしていました。
Oh
で
man.
ここは妄想の世界じゃなくて現実の世界だからつまり私は今日までずっと現実のクラスメートを嫌い、妄想の友人たちとの交流の中だけに生きた。その友人たちとはさっき決別しました。だから私がここにいます。家族もいません。友人も捨てました。もう私には何も残っていません。どうして死なないの？さっきそう聞いた人がいました。その通りだと思います。どうして私は1986年に私は死んでいるはずだったんです。
Oh man.
きっと死んだんです。なのに私の殺された魂は未だにこの肉の檻に閉じ込められている。だから誰かに求めよう。それに誰も答えてくれないなら自分でしよう。
Oh no.
誰か私を死なせてください。
No! Oh my god. I spoke that sentence and looked around. Dumbfounded girls, shocked girls, girls whose faces seemed to be saying, "What the heck is this kid talking about?" And a bit late, more girls with faces that said, "Is this girl alright? I mean, after what you did? Little shits." Whisper, chatter, and then giggle. When I ordered the friends in my daydream to kill, they couldn't do it. And so, I asked real humans to kill me. But of course, these girls can't do it either. In other words, both daydreams and reality are the same. Doesn't this mean that including this world, absolutely everything is a daydream? Then there's no problem, right? After all, on that day when I lost my family, I was already dead. Everything that happened afterwards is going on in my head, my life flashing before my eyes after I failed to die. Once I understood that, it felt like the scenery surrounding me began to twist and bend slightly. Yeah, I'll finally wake up. I'll be released from this daydream world. I feel my consciousness sliding away. That's alright. Fade farther and farther away and take me to my family. Then no matter what happens in this twisted, stale world, I won't mind it at all. I saw the crowd get pushed aside as a teacher stepped in. Perhaps just teacher doing the rounds happened to notice a strange disturbance. The teacher was vigorously shouting something, moving to protect me. Watching that, I knew that an ally had appeared for me, even if there was only one. And I felt my awareness return very slightly. Whomst is it? Whomst is it? The only ones who can save me in the world of reality are real humans. Never again. Never again will I seek rescue from daydreams. This is the world of humans. Nothing can save a human except for other humans. Oh, this is really sad.
そうだね。エンジェがそう思ったなら、それがエンジェの世界。エンジェはこれで幸せになれる？
I don't
エ
know.
ンジェがそれでしか幸せになれないと信じたなら、もうそれしかない。カゴの中にいる青い鳥をそうだと認められないなら、どこまでも探しに行かざるを得ない。ウリュウ、マリアとエンジェはもう絶好なの？
Probably.
絶好なんかじゃないよ。エンジェがそれを求めたからそうしただけ。
Oh
私た
no!
ち魔女は時に迫害を受けるけれども、
A few moments later, hey, I should summon those sisters and Maria and seek the answers Byrne told me to find. Yeah, right? Isn't that a little bit ironic?
でも常にみんなの身近にある。そしてきっとその助けを求められる。エンジェもまた僕たちと遊んでくれる日が来る？
God knows.
来ないでそのまま忘れてしまうこともあるかもしれない。人の世ではそれを成長や決別と呼ぶから。
Oh.
でも
If Ange just remembers, we'll always be by her side. And until then, we'll be waiting. Oh man, that was depressing as shit. Give me a second, I have to turn on the lights and like, I have to... My hands are dry. Hold up. Alright, I'm back. And my hands are now lotioned. Oh, we're back to a Maria flashback, huh?
ウリュマリア返事して
Oh, I suppose this is right after the the Ange flashback, huh?
ウリュやっぱり僕は
Okay, yeah, so this is right after that one flashback.
ぬいぐるみなの布と綿でできてるから喋れるわけないのだからマリアとはおしゃべりできないの
Sakutaro looked up at Maria sadly. Maria's face was covered with tears and it looked as though it had even lost all traces of sadness.
聞こえてるよサクタロサクタロは布と綿でできたぬいぐるみなんかじゃないよ
Basically what Ange did was tell Maria Santa is not real, that kind of thing. Welcome back, that reminds me I should lotion too. Yes, do that. Having dry hands really sucks.
マリアのお友達だよエンジェなんか嫌いウリュマリアごめんねマリアごめんね
Oh man, Ange.
ウリュ
Sakutaro regretted doing that. By freezing her heart, Maria had already been able to escape from her sadness. By speaking up and calling her back, he'd caused her to be overwhelmed with sadness again. Sakutaro tried hugging Maria, letting go of her, and gazing at her uneasily, lost as how he could bring up Maria's spirits up. He might look that little humorous doing that. In the end, that was enough to distract Maria from her sadness.
ごめんねもう泣いても仕方ないもんねエンジェとは喧嘩しちゃったけどマリアにはまだたくさん友達がいるよ
Yes, everyone in this
僕
room.
だけじゃないみんなもいるよサクスケもサク吉も動物の音楽隊も他にも
Maria looked at at the many stuffed animals around her pillow, which were gathered together as though they were having an idle chat.
みんなマリアのこと心配してるよどうしたらマリアが元気になってくれるかなってずっと相談しているよみんなはエンジェみたいにいなくならない
No.
ならないよ僕たちはいつだって一緒だよ本当にサクタロたちは家でしか一緒じゃないよママと一緒にお出かけできないし学校にも一緒に行けないよ僕たちは学校に行っちゃいけないから先生に見つかったら怒られちゃうもんでも見つからないならいつだって一緒にいていいんだよ
Oh, yeah, well, that's smart.
大きいから見つかっちゃうねだったら小さくて持ち歩ける子と一緒に行けばいいよ例えばほら森の音楽隊の仲間たちなら
Oh, are those the toys that Rosa gave to Maria?
小さいからマリアのポケットに隠れて一緒に学校に行けるよ音楽隊いっぱいいるよポケットに入りきらないよ
Take one at a time. She collected all the forest band pieces that were scattered across her bed. They were about as many of them as pieces in a chess set, so it'd probably be impossible to fit them all in her pocket.
なら特に仲良しのお友達だけを連れて行くといいよ。森の音楽隊の中で一番マリアと仲良しのウサギの4人組を連れてくといいよ。4つならポケットに入る。これなら見つからないね。
Fit in her pocket, 4, okay.
マリアはこれで学校でも一人ぼっちじゃないよ。僕が一緒に行けないところでもこの子たちなら一緒にいてくれるよ。なら寂しくないかも。お家に帰ってくるまで我慢できるかも。ママと先生にさえ見つからなければ僕たちはいつだって一緒にいられるんだよ。そしていつまでも一緒にいよう。遊んでいよう。
Yes.
僕たちはマリアを絶対に一人ぼっちになんかさせないから。うりゃ！
Mari's expression finally regained a little bit of its brightness. That's right. In the beginning, Maria's world didn't have Ange in it. Even without Ange, it was fun with everyone. And yet, strangely enough, it suddenly became sad without Ange, who had come in at the end. All that's happened is that I've returned to the world right before Ange entered it, so there's nothing to be sad about.
寂しくないよ。サクタロもみんなも一緒だもん。ウリュウ！マリア大好き。もう人間なんかにマリアの世界には誰も立ち入らせないよ。
Humans are forbidden now.
マリアージュ・ソルシエールはマリアとベアトリーチェだけの二人きりの同盟。もともとベアトもエンジェを加えるのには反対してたし。
Oh, she didn't want Ange in,
これでいいん
huh?
だもんね。エンジェはまだ幼すぎたんだよ。エンジェのことはまた仲良しになれるまで当分を忘れていていいと思うよ。マリアがまた元気を取り戻せたら一緒に遊べばいいよ。
Yes.
それまで僕たちみんながずっとそばにいるからね。ありがとう、サクタロ。みんな。
Then, Mari once again regained her former world. She regained the world that wasn't lonely, where she was surrounded by many friends. Just like usual, she didn't have any human friends at school, but her magic friends were always with her. The rabbit band she hid in her pocket talked with her during class, sounding like they were having fun. Just listening to that greatly embellished the time she spent in class. Mari made it so that as long as Mama and the teacher didn't find out, her other friends could always be with her. When Mama told Maria to go play outside, Mari would secretly pack Sakutaro and Sakusuke and the rest into her bag and play together at the library or somewhere. Even when Mama was late coming home and Maria went shopping for dinner, she always went with Sakutaro. The man at the convenience store and the other people were nice to Sakutaro. He sometimes gave a second portion free for Maria and Sakutaro. When Mama found out, Maria would get in trouble for bringing Sakutaro and the rest outside. When the teacher found out, Maria would get in trouble for bringing toys to school. The toxin must be strong in Mama and the teacher. That's why Sakutaro looks like a normal stuffed animal to them. After all, the convenience store man and the others say hello to Sakutaro. Not all humans are hopeless. There are tons of people who, unlike Ange and Mama and teacher, can say hello to magic friends like I can.
マリアちゃんかい。いらっしゃい。今夜もママは帰りが遅いのかい？
でもサクタロたちも一緒だから寂しくないの。
Man, the convenience store clerk is somehow a better parent.
サクタロ。ウリュウ。
Or a better friend at all.
今日はね、僕だけじゃないんだよ。他のお友達も一緒なんだよ。
This reminds me of the whole not really a meme, it was like a post story on the internet in which like two parents did the thing where whenever the kids went to bed, they always placed like their dinosaurs in different situations, so that when the kids woke up they always thought that the dinosaurs had done something in their sleep. And that the parents did that so the kids wouldn't lose their sense of imagination and wonder too quickly, right? The way that the store clerk and the others that Maria mentions who acknowledge Sakutaro remind me of that post. So basically the kind of adult that humors kids' imagination. Stuff like that is always great.
おや、他のお友達かい。今日はどんなお友達が一緒なんだい？
今日はね、森の音楽隊のウサギさんたちも一緒。ほら、ポケットに入ってるの。
Maria began to line up 4 ceramic rabbit dolls on the register. As the owner of the shop looked at it, smiling, he sent a signal to a part-timer with his chin. Then the sign on the other register that said closed was taken down, and a voice called out for everyone to move over there. All the people in line behind Maria lined up behind that one.
そうかそうか。マリアちゃんにはお友達がいっぱいだね。ママも早く帰ってきてくれればいいのに。
最近はよく忙しくなるの。
Oh man.
マリアと電話でお話しする時間も全然取れない。
I wonder if it's just the company and not other things.
でも
Like the
寂しくないよ。
tickets that we saw the other day.
マリアにはサクタロたちがいるもん。ねえ。うりゅう。ウサギの音楽隊のみんなも一緒だもん。ほら。
キュキュー。
ウサギの鳴き声ってキューキューだったっけ？はて、そういや聞いたことないな。
After smiling at Sakutaro, who was poking his head out of her knapsack, she played around with the rabbit band on the register, making them frolic around. Although the shop manager gazed at this pleasantly, he had a slightly pitying look on his face. Oh. This was apparently a single mother household, where the mother had to work hard and couldn't come home very often. On top of that, it looked like this girl didn't even have any friends. As he watched her play around happily with her dolls and claiming that she was lonely despite everything, he couldn't help but feel a kind of compassion. And actually, this wasn't limited to him alone. Maria had become quite famous in the shopping district. Uh-oh.
マリアちゃん、たまにはおでんも食べなさい。
Oh man. Rosa is going to hear from this via the rumors, huh? Oh boy.
卵とか練り物とか食べないと大きくなれないよ。
おお、クリームパンじゃダメ？ウリュウ、いろいろ食べないと大きくなれないよ。今日はおでんにしよう。じゃあおでんにする。
そうしなさい。おじさんが多めに入れておくよ。からしいる？
What's Odin exactly? And mustard. Yeah, the sound of the blue hair rabbit. Oh! Oh, okay. Now that reminds me. That one.
そうかそうか。じゃあ、こぼさないように持って帰りな。温かいうちが美味しいよ。
ありがとう。
She had planned on getting some sweet pastries for dinner, but since Odin had been recommended to her, she would be having that tonight instead. Letting someone else determine the menu makes for an unexpected and interesting meal. Very often, Maria had to decide what her dinner would be on her own, so it was easy for the menus to get a little one-sided. So it felt fun to have a meal she hadn't anticipated. Man, the store clerk is nicer to her than a lot of others.
お家にいる他のお友達にもよろしくね。途中でつまみ食いしちゃダメだよ。まっすぐお家へ帰ってから食べるんだよ。
おじさん、ありがとう。
He's such a nice mister. Maria raised the bag with the Odin container high. Uh-oh.
あれ？うりゅ？
Did she lose her keys?
どうしたの、マリア？ポケットに鍵がない。
Well, shit! Standing in front of the door to her house, Maria searched all over her body. The key to the house wasn't there. Uh-oh. She always methodically put it in the same pocket. So there was no way she had put it in another pocket, but she searched the whole body just in case. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't there.
お
Uh-oh.
財布を出した時に落とした？お財布を出してしまう時にはちゃんと手応えがあったもん。途中でポケットを探った時にもちゃんと手応えがあった。
Did it rip?
途中まではあったの。落としてなんかいない。
Even though the late autumn wind had been bearable when Maria had been thinking of returning home where the heater was, now that she was confused and had lost her key, that wind tormented her. But no matter how hard she searched, she couldn't find her key. She turned out all her pockets and even tried taking off her jacket and hitting it, but to no avail. Of course, she also turned the knapsack Sakutaro was in upside down, but the key didn't come out. Uh-oh. Something that should have been there wasn't where it was supposed to be. Why isn't the key there when I didn't do anything wrong? Why isn't it? Why? Why? Maria was cold and frustrated and angry, and she stamped on the ground. The bottom of her foot throbbed, but that didn't lessen her frustration. At the same time, her tears poured out. Oh man. It wasn't her fault, so it was someone else's fault. But whomst? But Maria didn't know who that someone was, and could do nothing but continue to let out a moan of anger.
ウリュウ、きっと途中で落としたんだよ。来た道を戻って探そう。せっかくおでん買ったのに、卵とかおまけしてもらったのに、あったかいうちに食べられない。
Aww.
マリア、悔しいけど探そう。誰も悪くないよ。探そう。
Oh man, oh poor baby. Everyone needs a sweet old shopkeeper in their life indeed, that I agree with. Maria finally lent an ear to Sakutaro's words and began to trot back down the road she had come on. The wind was colder than before, and it felt like it was blowing in through the corners of her jacket in a mean
ウリ
way.
ュウ、しっかり足元を見て探そう。そして早くお家に帰って暖房で温まりながらおでんを食べよう。
Oh man.
ない。ない。
As Sakutaro encouraged her, Maria searched for the key. But she made it all the way back to the convenience store where she bought the oden. She hadn't found it. Uh-oh. Just in case, she asked the man at the convenience store whether they found the dropped key. But they hadn't found anything. Oh man! One more time she returned home, paying close attention to the area around her feet. But surprisingly, she didn't find it. She was no longer frustrated enough to stomp her feet, but hot tears dripped down her face. The oden had cooled down completely. Even though she had been told it would be delicious when warm, she hadn't been able to eat it. Even though that man had given her so much free stuff.
泣かないで。ママは今夜帰ってこないんだよ。頑張って探そう。なんで見つからないの？
Oh, baby.
泣かないで。頑張って探そう。マリア。
Maria was no longer able to hold back her tears. Sobbing, she caught Sakutaro and held the bag of oden, returning once more down the road she had come by. Perhaps because more and more houses and stores had turned their lights off by now, it was even darker and harder to search than before. And once again, without finding the key, she returned to the convenience store.
マリアちゃん、鍵まだ見つからないのかい？
Well, shit.
鍵ない。
お母さん、今日は泊まりだって。鍵ないとお家入れないの？
入れない。
そりゃ困ったね。交番には行ってみた。届いてるかもしれないよ。
ママがおまわりさんに話しかけられてもお話ししちゃダメって言った。
I mean...
そりゃまたどうして？
It was probably because Rhoda would be reliable for making such a young girl like Maria watch over the house by herself. And because she knew that this wasn't something that would be permitted by society. Come on! So Maria was indoctrinated into changing the store she bought things at so that she didn't catch the eyes of adults. and into saying no more than a greeting to policemen even if they talked to her. Maria had obediently done as she was told. Instead of considering why she must do that, she was much more concerned with meekly obeying because her mother had told her so. Ah. But the manager at the convenience store probably didn't think of it that way. In the first place, seeing such a young girl being forced to watch over the house alone and so frequently would make anyone worry. Of course it would. And then, after making the round trip between her home and the store once more and arriving at the convenience store for a third time, a policeman was there.
です。マリアちゃん、鍵見つかったかい？
見つからない。
お嬢ちゃん、お名前は？
The police asked her name, but Maria didn't answer.
お母さんにおまわりさんとお話ししちゃいけないって言われてるの？大丈夫だよ。おじさんは怖くないよ。お嬢ちゃんは晩ご飯は食べた？
買ったけど、お家に入れないから食べられない。
Oh, baby.
お母さんはどうしてるの？今日は帰ってこないの？お仕事？お母さんの会社の連絡先、わかるかな？
Maria hung her head limply. She didn't understand why the policeman was getting mad at her. No, he probably wasn't getting mad at her, but if this reached her mother's ears, then she would definitely be in trouble. Even though she didn't understand the reason why she would be in trouble, she at least understood that much. Oh man. Imagine not being able to ask for help. But the policeman wouldn't let Maria go, and her head was swimming from hunger. The policeman noticed that, and it was decided that he'd listen to her story as they ate in the police box. Maria was taken to the police box. She had her oden heated in a microwave oven, and even salty rice cakes and hot tea were brought out for her. She had been told not to talk to policemen, but after being asked about Sakutaro, she responded, starting to feel that it wasn't a bad person. Anyway, she wouldn't be able to return home now, so she didn't know what to do. She told him Mama's work phone number, which she had been told to tell no one of and to use only in a very, very serious situation. In the tatami room inside the police box, as she ate the oden that was so hot it felt like it would burn her, she watched the policeman making the phone call, lazily thinking, I'm probably gonna get in trouble.
マリア、ママに怒られるかな。
Probably. Oh man. Probably. He must have been listening to the phone ringing for a very long time. With the receiver up to his ear, and the policeman looked up at the clock, grumbling.
営業時間終えちゃってるから出ないのかな。もしもし、もしもし、有限会社アンチローザさんで。
Auntie Rosa! Hello, is this the Auntie Rosa Club?
こちら小松川警察署千本桜駅前交番でございます。う大館じゃないや。後宮社長さんはいらっしゃいますか？はい。休暇中？
What?
はい。社長は昨日から3日間休暇になってます。
3-day vacation. Bruh.
どういったご用件で？
いや。
Oh man!
それでどちらにおられるかわかりますかね？連絡先とか聞いてたりしませんかね？
This is going to go hardcore. I'm not looking forward to this, you guys. Rosa is going to come back fuming. You guys. You guys, this is going to end up really badly. I am dreading what's coming next. Okay.
了解。もしもし、札幌に行ってるそうですけど、連絡先まではちょっとわかりません。
Holy shit.
ご伝言しますか？
そうですか。参ったな。
Holy shit. Great parenting indeed.
じゃあ、もし連絡がつきましたら、こちらから電話があったとお伝えできますか？はい。
Oh man. Oh man, I feel nothing but pure dread. Oh god. After that, I was taken to the police department, which was even bigger, and ended up spending the night there. Then they asked me various things about myself. A lady who called herself the district welfare officer came by and asked about a lot of things. And I was told, you poor thing. When I heard that, I learned for the first time.
マリアってかわいそうだったの？
Oh man.
ウリュウ、
Yeah. Yeah, you are, Maria.
そんなことないよ。マリアは幸せ。
Oh boy.
ほー。
Oh boy. Poor thing, because you get treated like shit by Rosa so often. Oh god. I know their relationship is complicated, but oh my god. Oh no, 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 no. You guys, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. No. No, this is going to be so bad. God, okay. I'll brace myself. Then Rosa came back. Maria was told to go to her room, but on her way back from the bathroom, she hid by the entrance to the living room and listened in on the exchange. The person who had come to visit was the female district welfare officer who had asked Maria various questions on the other day.
そういう押し付けは困ります。マリアは心が純粋すぎて繊細だから、無神経な子がいたら傷つけられてしまうんです。余計なおせっかいはやめてください。
Pointless meddling, yeah, sure.
でもね、お母さん、そんなに繊細な子なら、なんで一人で家に放置しておくの？
Oh man, oh man.
お母さんが一緒にいてあげるべきなんじゃないですか？
She's about to let all of that anger out on Maria.
なるべく一緒にいるようにしています。そんなこと、あなたに指図される覚えはありません。
そうですか？この辺のご近所ではとても有名ですよ。みんな気にしてて気を使ってくれてたんですよ。
Oh shit. I mean, you are speaking the truth, but the problem is as soon as you leave the place, shit's going to get bad.
どうしてうちの子だとわかるんですか？子供なんて街中にいくらでもいるじゃないですか。勝手にうちのマリアだと決めつけないでください。夜に出歩く子供だってたまにはいるでしょう。それらが全てうちの子だという証拠でもあるんですか？
ライオンのぬいぐるみを抱いた女の子がよく夕食を食べに来る。
Police woman, don't snitch! Don't snitch! I know you mean well, but don't snitch, please.
商店街でもとても有名だったんですよ。みんなマリアちゃんのことを思って大切にしてくれてました。
Is this... Oh boy. Is something going to happen to Sakutaro? Because I know for a fact that Sakutaro doesn't show up in the game board. At least he hasn't in previous episodes. I think Sakutaro is going to be thrown away. Uh-oh.
ライオンのぬいぐるみなんてどこにでもあります。
Uh-oh.
自宅まで送るなんて余計なお世話です。
Oh no.
マリアを誘拐するつもり？
Oh no.
マリアに構わないで。マリアは私の子です。私が育ててます。おかしな施設に入れるつもりもまるでありません。
I am raising her. Yeah, you are raising her pretty badly, man.
余計なおせっかいはやめて。
Oh man. Oh man.
ウリュウ、
Uh-oh.
ライオンのぬいぐるみって
Uh-oh.
僕のこと？大丈夫だよ。
She snitched. The
怒ら
police
れる
lady
のは
snitched.
マリアだ。サクタロウは関係ないよ。
Maria hugged Sakutaro, continuing to watch her mother fearfully. Oh man. Oh no. I'm also
私
scared
も
for her.
マリアと毎日一緒にいられたらと思います。でもシングルマザーですから働かなくちゃならない。
What? In Sapporo on vacation?
私はこう見えても会社の社長ですから社員の生活も背負っている。一年中仕事で忙しいんですよ。休む暇だってないんです。
そう？でもこの3日間お休みだったんでしょ？
Oh fuck!
休みなんかじゃありません。私はずっと会社で泊まりがけで仕事をしていました。
Don't lie, at least say like you were on a business trip. It's easy. Just say you were on a business trip.
他の頼りない社員では片付けられない案件が私には山積みなんです。
どうしてそんな嘘つくの？
Uh-oh.
あなたの会社の人が3日間お休みを取ってますって言ってるのよ。
Now some poor employer is going to get
彼
fired.
氏さんと北海道に行ってきたんでしょ？
Uh-oh.
娘さんを3日間も置いて。彼氏なんて知りません。北海道なんて知りません。
Uh-oh.
どうしてそんなデタラメ言うの？どうして
Man, the Maria tantrum is coming out.
なんか証拠でもあるの？何よあんた、勝手に人の家のことに口を出さないでよ。私はマリアを愛してるのよ。私には私なりの愛し方があるのよ。勝手に口出さないでよ。私は旅行になんて行ってないわよ。仕事してたのよ、ずっと。マリアに1秒でも早く会いたくて、仕事を少しでも早く片付けようと一生懸命。
I think in part she does that, but the problem is on the vacation part, it's definitely a lie.
会社に泊まり込んでずっと
Man, Rosa, you're not a good liar.
知らない。北海道なんて知らないわよ。勝手なこと言わないで。
Welp. I think I know someone else who could go to an institution or more like, therapy.
もう帰ってよ。
Oh boy, she's going to go ballistic on Maria. Oh no.
なんなのよあんたは。帰って。
Okay. Rosa raged, her hair flying wildly. A teacup was knocked over from the force of her standing up. But far louder than that was the sound of her beating the table with both hands. When faced with this rage that could accurately be described as wide-eyed derangement, the district welfare officers couldn't help but be taken aback. Well... And the same went for Maria, who was secretly watching this from the hallway. She had already seen her mother in a rage several times before this, but she had never seen her this crazed with anger. Uh-oh. When she saw this, Maria was sure this was no longer her mother. It was some other evil being that was possessing her mother's body. Uh-oh. The Black Witch. And then what she likes to call the Black Witch. If this was Maria from the end of episode 2, I wonder how she would have seen this. And then she herself was discovered by the evil being. Maria knew that she was being reflected in the evil being's eyes. Her mind went blank, and she felt as though her field of vision was racing off into the distance. And fiercely closing in on Maria, Rosa mercilessly slapped her on her small shoulders and dropped her gaze towards the stuffed animal Maria was holding, Sakutaro.
マリア、あなた、あれだけお外にそれを持って行っちゃダメって言ったのに。
Is she going to act like this while the welfare officer is right there? You know, evidence? Testimony?
ウリュウ、マリアは悪くないよ。違うよ。マリアが寂しいから勝手にサク太郎を連れてったの。だからママ、サク太郎は悪くないの。ウリュウ。
Oh boy.
マリア、サク太郎は悪くないよ。サク太郎は悪くないよ。
Instead of Maria, the brunt of Rosa's anger was aimed at the lion-stuffed animal Maria was holding. Oh no, no, no! A girl went shopping in the middle of the night, always clutching a lion-stuffed animal. Because of that, she had become well known in the shopping district center. Oh.
ぬいぐるみ持ってっちゃダメって言ったでしょ。どうして？
Oh no, 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 no!
あんたはママの言うことが聞けないのよ。どうしてよ。
Oh no. Is she doing that right in front of the police officer? You guys. This can be taken as evidence, you know that. The welfare officer like writing notes down like, okay, I will take this to the child welfare. With every single word, she stamped her heel and banged furiously on the wall. Of course, she didn't make direct contact with Maria. However, the violence of the harsh sound certainly beat against her. Oh man. Seems like a normal Oh my god! The police officer trying to stop her.
話してよ。話せって言ってんでしょ。
The district welfare officer had come back to her senses and was pinning Rosa's arms behind her back. But the instant Rosa was touched, she went wild, furiously throwing the welfare officer off. Holy shit! She hit the table and fell to the ground. A teacup on the table smashed the floor, making a violent sound.
マリアは悪くないよ。僕が悪いの。
Oh boy!
だからマリアを叱らないで。
Well, Rosa, you can get charged for this, like resisting and assaulting an officer.
サク太郎を連れてったのはマリア。サク太郎は悪くないの。サク太郎は悪くないの。だからサク太郎をそんな怖い目で見ないで。マリアを叱らないで。マリアを叱らないで。うりゅー。
あんたさっきから何をやってるの？あんたそのお人形さんごっこ外でもやってたの？お店の人の前でもやってたの？
だから覚えられちゃうんでしょ。少しは考えろこのバカ。なんであんたはそう大バカなのよ。
More evidence.
正直におっしゃいな。
Oh, this is so
お外でお
horrible.
買い物をするとき、ママに内緒でいつもそのぬいぐるみを持ち歩いてたのね。
うりゅー。
その変なぬいぐるみ語をやめなさい。ぬいぐるみじゃなく、あなたの言葉で喋りなさい。
サク太郎はぬいぐるみじゃないよ。
Uh-oh.
マリアの友達だよ。ぬいぐるみって言わないで。言わないで。
はいはい、わかったわ。サク太郎だったわね、名前。ママに内緒でそのサク太郎人形を持っていつもお買い物に行っていたのね。
Mari admitted it honestly. If she hadn't admitted it, then Sakutaro would have said something to take the blame. So by admitting it right away, she was protecting her small friend.
サク太郎だけ？他には？まさか学校にも何か変なのを持って行ってるんじゃないでしょうね。
They're toys. It's normal for a child to have toys. My god.
お母さん、お嬢さんは悪くないでしょ。そのキスもおやめなさい。あんたは黙ってなさい。私と娘の話でしょ。
ほらマリア、ママの目を見て話をしなさい。
I am boiling with a little bit of anger inside, but I'm also really horrified.
サク太郎だけじゃないの。ウサギのみんなも一緒。
今も持ってるの
Mari fished around in her pockets, pulling out 4 ceramic rabbits with her tiny hand. The rabbits were her close friends who could be together with her at school in Sakutaro's place, but when Rosa saw that, she shook her head slightly as though dizzy. On a school notice, it had been written that Mari was apparently bringing toys to school and playing with them, and her family was instructed to try and prevent this. But Rosa had rejected that, blaming the teacher and phoning in a protest of her own to the school, saying that there was no way her child would bring toys to school. For nearly an hour, she had shouted at the vice principal to stop making false accusations about her daughter. To a certain degree, those at the school I had grasped that Mari was a pitiful girl. They knew that the small toys she brought in were her only friends, so they had done their best to overlook it. But when the other students caught sight of them, some of the boys had started complaining that she could only bring toys, and the school had racked their brains on how to cope with this. They had tried to gently send a warning letter by the way of the mother, but after Rosa's overreaction, even Maria's teacher decided to overlook it. I mean, do you blame her? Do you blame the teacher? But now Rosa knew. She had been the one who was wrong, and her daughter really had been bringing toys to school. And those at the school had known that she was a disgrace who brought toys and played with them as though they were her only friends. Come on. To Rosa, who thought her daughter was just a little different from normal children, having this peculiar side of her daughter exposed and found fault with was, more than anything else, something she couldn't bear. So she howled, uh-oh. While the police is there, she raged. The district welfare officer tried to cut between Rosa and Maria again, but she only met with Rosa's wrath once more. Rosa once again threw the woman off with a face like a demon. That's assault! And when even that failed to curb her anger, she stomped on the ground over and over again so forcefully that it seemed she might break through the floor. Holy shit. Then after seeming to come back to her senses for a second, she immediately froze her harsh breathing and asked Maria.
Maria, そのウサギの音楽隊はマリアの大切なお友達？
Why are you asking?
そう、4人もお友達がいてよかったわ。
And she said that Rosa grabbed one of the rabbits from Maria's hand. Then she shoved it in front of Maria's eyes so she could see it very well. The cute rabbit holding a trumpet was a small doll like a chess piece. She slowly lifted it in the air. She's going to break it. I can't believe it. Of course, Maria's and Sakutaro's eyes followed it. Then with a speed that the eye couldn't follow, she smashed it against the wall. Why? She had half imagined that this worst possible thing might happen, so she instantly realized what had been done. So Maria let out a short, despairing scream. It was in pieces. It had been small and sturdy, but that hadn't been enough to withstand her mother's fierce rage.
ママの言うことをちゃんと聞かないから一つ壊れちゃったわ。
Wow.
今後
Showing all that evidence to the police officer. From the welfare
また一つ
officer.
壊すからね。覚えておきなさい。
あなたそんなことするなんて母親ですか？
You tell her!
そんなことしてお嬢さんが傷つかないと思ってるんですか？
マリアが傷つく。私も傷ついているのよ。
And nobody
私
cares.
の傷は誰が責任取ってくれるのよ。
I mean, of course people care, but come on, this isn't justified. Don't play the whole yeah, well, but I have it bad too card.
誰が？
A therapist.
あんたは黙っててって言ってるでしょ。
やめてママ、悪いのはマリア。おばさんを怒らないで。マリアは悪くないよ。僕が悪いの。マリアを怒らないで。うりゅうりゅうりゅうりゅうりゅう。
そのぬいぐるみごっこをやめろって言ったでしょ。だいたいね、気持ち悪いのよ。ぬいぐるみがお友達ってあんた今年でいくつよ。
I mean, for a 9-year-old girl, that's still normal.
何歳よ。こんなの布と綿の気持ち悪い下手くそなぬいぐるみじゃない。こんなのしか友達いないのあんた。こんな化け物のぬいぐるみとお友達ごっこしてる暇があったらちゃんとした人間の友達を作りなさいよ。なんであなたにはいつまでもお友達ができないのよ。そんなんだからいつまでもクラスで変わり者扱いされてバカにされて、もうほんとしっかりして。こんなぬいぐるみ遊びもう卒業しちゃってよ。
Oh, the pain.
うりゅうりゅう。
だからそのぬいぐるみごっこをやめろって言ってるでしょ。
Uh-oh.
返して、サキタロ返して。うりゅう。
Uh-oh.
うりゅうりゅうりゅう。
Mama grabbed hold of Sakutaro's head and took him from me. No! Then she smashed him against the wall over and over.
痛いよ。痛い。
Oh no!
やめろっつってんのよ。そのぬいぐるみごっこをやめろっつってんでしょ。こんなぬいぐるみがあるから。
Can't the welfare lady, I don't know, just put her in shackles for a bit?
あんたはいつまでも友
Just
達
handcuff her for a while? You know?
だから一人だけクラスで浮いてておかしな子扱いされるんでしょうが。こんなぬいぐるみあげなきゃよかった。こんな気持ち悪いぬいぐるみあげなきゃよかった。
やめてー。サクタロ返して。サクタロ返して。
Oh god!
マリアのお友達なの。
the imminent need for me to just pop in there, grab a chair, and bash Rosa over the head with it just to get her to stop. Oh my god. Like, for some reason, my frantic request just added oil to the fire of Mama's anger. Mama pushed my arm aside as I tried to grab Sakutaro and snatch him back. And in a bizarre way, she stuck her fingernails on both hands deep in Sakutaro, twisting. Uh-oh. No. The red muffler, which had carefully wrapped for him every day, she came off and fell to the floor. Oh no. Sakutaro had been so precious to me. He was twisted, smashed, torn with fingernails so much he was twisted painfully, his face curving in sadness. Then Mama's fingernails found a stitch on the neck and tore it with the fingernails of both hands. She tore it apart. Sakutaro, no! I can't believe this! In an instant, Sakutaro's yellow cloth and the cotton inside burst apart. It looked almost like moist cotton candy. I knew it was coming and still wasn't ready for it. Oh, I want to cry. I want to cry. No.
Sakutaro.
No. Oh man. Oh Maria. The crumpled yellow cloth and the cotton candy flowing out were thrust right in front of my eyes. Then through Maria's face, the evil being stated it clearly.
サク太郎は死んでしまいました。
No! Oh man. Maria, no. And Sakutaro. Maba ga gyurui gyugo. Gikuguki? Kutaro. Sakutaro. Oh god. Gutaro. Sakutaro. Oh, she's crying. No!
Maria.
GG, Rosa, you gave Maria new trauma. Yeah, thanks, Rosa. Oh, much appreciated.
泣くんでない。
Oh.
サク太郎は良き友人であった。そなたがそれを忘れぬ限り、常にそなたと共にある。
This episode is nothing but a lot of sadness.
だから泣くんでない。
Like, my stream title doesn't even fit anymore. Ronove hasn't shown up even once. I'm only getting pain. And I have a particularly bad Ronove brain rot today, but this is basically making me forget.
それは
She can't,
無
huh?
論サク太郎がわらわの家具だったならそれもしかしサク太郎はそなたの家具だ。わらわにそれは難しい。
難しいってことは無理じゃないんだよね。生き返らせて、無限の魔法で生き返らせて。
実はな、サク太郎のよりしろはローザの手作りのぬいぐるみであったろ。そのローザがサク太郎を否定した。
Oh boy.
母にその生を許されなかった命は存在できぬのだ。
Shit. Beatrice's words were feeble, because she knew that too, no matter what the excuse, it wouldn't be enough to call Maria and make her accept it. But she had to communicate the painful truth to her disciple and close friend. She had to tell her the fact that even with all of her own power, even she could not revive Sakutaro.
そなたがサク太郎の存在を強く信じる限り、その魂が消え去ることはない。だからマリア、どうか悲しむな。今もほら、
すぐそこで作太郎が微笑んでいると信じるのだ。
Oh man.
諦めよ。作太郎を蘇らせる魔法はない。
Ugh.
そしてそれでもなお作太郎がそなたの親友であり続けることを強く信じよ。
Yes, believe that's the only way you can keep him alive.
魔法となる。
そんなの魔法じゃない、魔法じゃない。作太郎が生き返らなきゃ嫌だ。ママの手作りだからダメなの。どうしてママは作太郎を作っマリアにプレゼントするためじゃないの？マリアのお友達にするためじゃないの？なのになんでママは自分で作って自分で壊したの？
Because she isn't the greatest
どうして
mother.
ママは自分で産んで自分で壊そうとするの？
You know, this kind of feels like meta-narrative about why give birth to Maria and then try to break Maria herself, even if it's not directly intentional or whatever. She still causes the damage, right? Like, no matter what kind of backstory is behind Rosa or whatever, her own traumas and pain, like, sympathize as much as one wants or empathizes. The end thing is that even if they have a more complex-ish relationship that is like black and white, at the end of the day, Rosa is giving Maria a lot of trauma, and that nothing can make up for that. Like, nothing. Like, that's permanent damage for the rest of Maria's life.
ママが憎いよ。ママが憎い。
Oh boy.
悔しい、悔しい、悲しい、悲しい。作太郎がそうされたようにママをねじり上げてやりたい。
Uh-oh.
爪を立てて引き裂いて布地と綿にしてやりたい。作太郎。
Oh man. From the darkness behind Maria's back, two massive jet black arms crept out, twisting around Maria as she sobbed in anger. Then massive fingernails stuck into Maria's chest and stomach. Maria could not see that, but Beato could. Anger and sadness without any place to go will tear you apart. Beato knew that. She could see that. Yes. In the end, those massive arms were Maria's own. Those fingernails slowly started to eat into her chest and stomach. With their immense size and strength, those arms could probably tear Maria into bits easily. But Maria herself couldn't notice. Drowning in a sea of her own tears, she couldn't notice that their own arms were trying to tear apart her own chest.
悔しい、悔しい。作太郎がどうしても生き返らせられないなら、マリアは復讐したい。ママを同じ目に遭わせてやりたい。
Oh boy, are we going into revenge fantasy territory?
作太郎と同じ目に遭わせてやりたいの。ベアトリーチェ、そのための魔法を教えて。ママをやっつける魔法を教えて。
Oh boy! Congratulations, Rosa. Congratulations. You made your child want to tear you apart
その
too.
言葉は本心。
ママを殺す。
Oh boy!
殺してやる。
Yeah, well,
あれはママじゃないよ。ママに取り付いた悪い魔女だ。
oh boy.
ママの魔女を殺してやる。
よかろう。その力を。
She got her wish granted every episode. Yep. She got her wish granted every episode. Yeah, more or less, but she didn't do it herself, right?
心美しきそなたが自らに引き裂かれるくらいならば、そなたにその苦しみを与えた心なき母こそがよほど引き裂かれるに値する。教えようぞ、魔女の世界の 光さすことなき深淵の奥底。
サクタロ、サクタロ。みんな嫌い嫌い、大嫌い。ママも嫌い、エンジェも嫌い。みんな大嫌い。
Oh boy, congratulations, Rosa. Look what you did. What's happening? Oh boy! The world of 12 years later. No, I want to see what happens! I had planned on taking a nap, but the boat really was shaking bad. I gave up on sleeping and went onto the deck. There, I was welcomed by the shining sun and a strong sea breeze. Makuza had been doing some stretches on the deck. He must have a lot of time on his hands too. After all, it'll be several more hours before we reach Nijima. I will only have taken a couple dozen minutes by airplane, but there was the chance that the Nijima airport was under the Sumadera family's whip. The harbor would probably be the same. For that reason, I had obtained a boat that would let me land while avoiding the harbor, no questions asked. I bumped into a Shiri boat captain, plied him generously, and he had decided to help me out amused.
まだだいぶかかるの？
さっき船長に聞いたら、あと2時間はたっぷりかかるそうです。
Okay.
ま、贅沢は言えねえですな。
いいお天気ね。
Where are we going?
焼けちゃいそう。
甲板で読書ですか？本が痛みますよ。
Amakusa apparently thought this was because clutching Mario Neichan's diary under my arm. I've been reading it half asleep, which was why I'd come back up still clutching it.
どうですか？マリアさんの日記から六軒島の真相は探れそうですかい？
さあ、あの島で何があったかなんて、どこまで調べても仮説でしかない。メッセージボトルもお姉ちゃんの日記も、魔女が闊歩するおとぎ話が記されているだけで、お手上げよ。
新島での関係者からの聞き込みに期待するしかないですね。
ウィッチハンターどもが散々質問攻めにしてるでしょうから、きっと真事実なんて見つからないわよ。
Lol, who this? Who, the guy? The guy is Amakusa.
そこまで期待してないのに、
And he has the
半
drip.
日も船旅をして新島に行こうなんて、実に気まぐれなことです。
調べたっていう自己満足のための旅みたいなものよ。本気で12年前の真実が解き明かせるなんて、私も甘えてるつもりは。
その自己満足が終わったらどうするつもりで？
さあ、考えてないわ。新島に行って関係者に話を聞いて、最後に六軒島に行って花でも捧げたら、私の旅はおしまいね。
And then? He has a girl chasing ability. What? Several days have already passed since this journey began. After being told by Bernkenstel on the roof of that building to search for the truth of 12 years ago, I'd left on a journey like trying to grasp a cloud. At the time, I felt as though I'd experienced something mystical and had the feeling that I might be able to grasp some kind of miracle at the end of this journey. Weak against traps. Like he's the type to fall into a bear trap very easily and the like. But after several days passed, my excitement died down. Satoko laugh. On that day, when I stood on the roof of that skyscraper, my heart was completely cornered and dead. So I'd wanted from the bottom of my heart to be released from the cage of my body and rise into the sky. And I'd crossed the fence in order to die. Maybe experiencing the desire to die and actually stepping forward, throwing my body down, caused some kind of mystical experience inside my head, making me think I had received a message from a witch. The excitement from my jump lessened over time, and the more I came back to my senses, the more this journey lost its meaning. But I didn't even consider suspending this journey just because of that. If I stopped this journey, it would mean acknowledging that the message from that witch was an illusion. And I felt as though that meant throwing away the promise the witch made, and any chance that someone from my family might come back. So, because it was hard to believe that those events were an illusion, I've continued on my journey. I don't seriously believe that this journey will change anything. It's even up to me when to end this journey. It's up to me to choose where the final destination is. In the end, this journey is only for my self-satisfaction.
自己満足か。聞こえは悪いですが、そいつが実は人生ってやつではないかと思ってます。
傭兵家業で視線をくぐった末に至った答えだったなら、なかなか味わい深いじゃない。
茶化さんでください。俺が言いたいのは、自己も何も自分を認められるのは世の中で自分だけしかいないってことです。
Amakusa continued stretching as he spoke, in an irritatingly fresh way. Hearing it told to me as though from a teacher made me instinctively want to resist, but what he was saying was extremely sensible.
そうかもね。人は誰かに認められたくて努力をするわ。
Let me just get me some more tea.
多くの場合、それは親ね。親に褒められたくて子供は努力を覚える。だから私は覚えなかったわけだけど。
すんません。そういうつもりで言ったんじゃないです。俺が言いたいのは、自己満足大いに結構ってことなんです。誰に褒められたって、それを納得できなきゃ意味がない。逆を返しゃ、誰に褒められなくったって、自分が納得できりゃそれでいいってことです。
自己満足と向上心って矛盾するから、普通は悪いことって教えられるわよね。天草の論法はなんだか新鮮よ。
誰かに認めてほしくて、だけれど何を努力すればいいのかわからないのが人の世の苦しみです。俺にもそういう頃があった。
That makes sense.
誰かに認められたくて、でも何を認められればいいかわからなくて、そして何をどこまで努力すれば誰に認めてもらえるかわからなくて、随分と無茶苦茶をやってきたもんです。
それで天草が至った答えが自己満足だっていうの？
聞こえは悪いがそういうことです。我ただ樽を知るってやつですわ。俺がこれでいいと思った人生なら、それはとやかく言われてどうこうってもんじゃない。
That's the right way to see it.
エンジェさんの人生もこの旅も同じです。エンジェさん以外の誰にもとやかく言う権利なんてない。旅の意味と成果はエンジェさんだけが決める。エンジェさんにとって有意義な旅になったなら、それで十分なんですよ。
あんたってチャラけてる男だと思ってたけど、たまに変なこと言い出すのね。
Yeah, he says some kind of deep shit sometimes. Appreciate it.
そういうこと、たまに言うとモテると思ってるでしょ。
まさかまさか。そんなつもりで言ったんじゃありません。どうやらお一人になりたいようだ。俺は船長のところへ行っていますぜ。どうぞごゆっくり。
Amakusa apparently decided I was in a bad mood, although I didn't feel that way myself. Or he might have finished a set of stretches and wanted to cool off in the shade. The sea winds were strong, but not enough to cool the rays of the sun. Amakusa disappeared. Only I remained.
自己満足こそが人生か。
Oh, she's
そんなの
here.
つまらないです。人生はどこまでも強欲でなくっちゃ。
I noticed that Mammon had suddenly appeared, her abundant hair fluttering over by the prow of the ship.
強欲な人生は確かに楽しいわ。でもあなたと違って人間には寿命がある。永遠に強欲のままだったなら、人は死ぬ最後の瞬間にも欲があることになる。欲があるということはつまり欲しいということ、持っていないということ、満たされていないということ。自分が満たされていると思えないまま死ぬのはきっと辛いことよ。だからきっと自己満足って必要なんだわ。
Yes.
なるほど。寿命ある存在にはそういう妥協点も必要ってことですか。私たちの主はやたらと寿命の長いお方ばかりだったんで考えたこともなかったです。
人間ってのは満たされるために生きてるのかしら。だとしたら無欲が一番人生に優しいことになるわ。
Wouldn't that be just a sad life?
7つの大罪の一つが強欲になるのも納得ね。
お褒めに預かり光栄です。
Apparently that counted as compliment in Mamo's eyes. She turned and gave a graceful bow.
エンジェ様、人間は死の瞬間に満足であるために生きてるんですか？
死の瞬間に何かが満たされていないのはきっと辛いんじゃない？
だとしたら人間は満足な死を迎えるためだけに生きてるわけですね。より良い死のために生きてる。死ぬために生きてる。
This kid's saying something pretty incredible. I see, as I'd expected from a demon stake. However, it might be the truth. Humans suffer because they aren't satisfied and live only to find the satisfaction. In other words, that might be the same as a desire to die satisfied.
言い返せないわ。人は満たされるために生きてる。そして満たされたまま死にたいと願ってる。だからその満たされ方がわからないのはとても辛いことだわ。
I guess.
どうやれば満たされるんです？人間の人生は。
認めてもらうことよ。お前は幸せだってね。
誰が認めてもいいものでしたら私が認めてあげますよ。
そうよ、そこなのよ。誰に認めてもらえばいいのかわからないのよ。
その認めてくれる人を探すのが人生の旅なんですか。へえ。
Makes sense. Find someone who
おかしな
loves you.
話ね。認めてもらおうと
Like
認めてもらわなかろうと
like in a family sense or in a romantic sense or in a platonic sense.
にもかかわらず認められれば満たされ、認められないから満たされない。まるで青い鳥だわ。カゴの中にもう青い鳥はいるのに、それに気づけないからどこまでも探しに旅立たなければならない。
何ですかそれ。人間の人生ってバカですね。
そうね、天草は本当にいいことを言ったわ。我ただ樽を知るか。何のことわざか知らないけど味わい深いわ。つまるところ、誰かに認めてもらわなければ満ち足りないとは、すなわち自らを認められないということ。究極の自己実現はまず自分を自分で認めることだったのよ。
そりゃそうです。自分が満ち足りてるって自覚できるなら誰にも認めてもらう必要なんかないですから。
Damn.
残った時間を有意義に遊んで過ごせます。人間の人生ってバカバカしい。
Haman's choice of word was bad, but it was surely the truth. If most of a human's life is a journey with the hopes that someone will acknowledge them, so that they can achieve a satisfied death, then when they realize that the person doing the acknowledging isn't someone else but they themselves, that pointless journey can end. Humans who have ended that journey can probably spend the rest of their lives as they wish, with their heads held high. How noble, how praiseworthy that would be.
天草ってさ、親とはかなり仲が悪いらしいのよ。そりゃそうよね。まっとうな親なら足を洗わせたいと願うような商売だもの。
別にいいんじゃない？本人が楽しいなら。
まったくよね。結局はそういうことなのよ。他人が観測した自分の評価なんかどうでもいいこと。自分の存在を自分自身がしっかり認められたならそれで十分なのよ。自分に自信を持って生きられるならどんな生活だって受け入れて納得できるに違いない。天草はきっといつか戦場で流れ弾を食らって大怪我をするでしょうよ。あるいは死ぬことさえあるかもしれない。
Damn.
でも天草はそれを理不尽とは思わないと思う。それも人生と。あいつはケラケラ笑ってるような気がするの。
Amakusa seems like a fairly positive person.
惚れるわ。
自分で自分を認められない哀れな人間は生涯それを求めてさまよい、何も受け入れられず不平不満だけを口にし満たされないまま死んでいく。
What, like Eva?
哀れだわ。何の目的もなく だらだらと生きてる連中に比べたらやがてのだれ死にするかもしれないけれど、自分の人生に胸を張っている天草の方がよっぽど高潔なのに。
人生悟ったものの勝ちってことじゃない？少しでも早く悟れればその分有効に残りの人生が過ごせてお得よね。
With Mammon's words, I finally accepted a certain fact. In the past, I've called that girl unusual, a little strange. However, that wasn't true. All she did was keep her head held high and finish that journey faster than anyone else. Oh, are we talking about Maria?
だからマリアお姉ちゃんはすごかったのかもしれない。彼女は小学校低学年になるかならないかという年齢のうちにそれに至ったのよ。
For people like us, looking at her life from the outside, it wasn't something we'd call blessed. But even though days like that were engraved in her diary, they always finished up by saying that it was a happy day. Even though the part of her mother that didn't love her daughter came and went, she believed that her mother loved her. The mother's love that didn't exist, she created herself, filling her world with love. Others might observe her as an unsatisfied, pitiful girl, but she herself acknowledged that she was satisfied, and so she was happy that way. It's easy to observe that as something pitiable and sad, but to her that was an outsider's opinion, so it didn't matter. Whether or not it was happy for her was the only important thing. It's just like how, when people who live in the city point to the lifestyles of those in rural areas and mourn their inconvenience and feel sympathy for them, it's really none of their business. If those who live there are satisfied with what they have, that's more than enough.
私、ようやく気づいたわ。今気づいた。マリアお姉ちゃんにひどいことをしたのよ。
Oh.
あの日に、あなたたちにも、サク太郎にも。
Oh boy. She's acknowledging that, huh?
魔法があるかないか、それを決めるのは他人じゃないわ。自分よ。マリアお姉ちゃんにとって魔法があるかないかは、マリアお姉ちゃんが決めるべき問題で、私が決めることじゃない。なのに、私は幼いあの日、口にしてしまった。魔法なんてあるわけないって。彼女を傷つけてしまった。
Yeah, you did, like a lot. Man, that whole day was probably pure hell for Maria. The fact that magic doesn't exist in my eyes matters in my world, but denying it even in One-chan's world for that reason was totally misguided.
マリアージュ・ソルシエールはマリアお姉ちゃんの作った魔女同盟。私はそれに誘われて一緒に魔女になろうと言われたの。新しい面白い遊びだと思って私はしばらくの間それでも幼さゆえの残酷さ、途中で飽きてしまった。そして鋭利な言葉で彼女の純粋無垢な心を切り裂いてしまったの。
Yeah, you did.
あの時大喧嘩をしたはず。私はすぐに忘れてしまったけれど、彼女には忘れられないものだった。
Probably because Ange was one of the very few friends she had that were like, you know.
なぜなら彼女にとって魔法は確かに存在する自然な力で、それは私とも共有できると信じていたから。マリアお姉ちゃんにとって世界を幸福に解釈できる、いえ全てを幸福にできる、まさに魔法の力だった。それを私にもお裾分けしたかっただけ。その気持ちを幼い私が引き裂いた。だから彼女は誰とも魔法は分かり合えないと殻の中に閉じこもってしまったのよ。
だとしたらマリア卿もやはり人生の旅は終わってないわけね。自分に納得できてるならエンジェ様に否定されたくらいでへこむ必要なんてないわけだし。
I think the difference here is that Maria basically entrusted Ange to something very personal.
お姉ちゃんは幼かった。天草みたいな達観にはまだ至ってなかったのよ。はあ、だからこそわかるわ。 マリアージュ・ソルシエルという魔女同盟がなぜ必要なのか。
An alliance where each acknowledges that the other is a witch.
そうよ。それが確かマリアージュ・ソルシエルの取り決めの第一条だった気がする。同盟の魔女は互いを魔女と認め尊敬し合うことって、それこそが魔女同盟の一番の、そして唯一の意味なのよ。
Mario Nechan wanted to share with me the secret laws to make the world happy called magic. But I was young and she was too. I hurt her with innocent cruelty.
私はあの日に言ったわ。あなたたちやサク太郎に存在するわけがないって。
失礼しちゃうわ。私たちが存在するって自らを認めてる。魂が寝ぼけてる人間どもとはわけが違うのよ。我を思うゆえに我あり。魔法を認めようと否定しようと、私たち煉獄の七姉妹という魔法が存在することはゆえに事実。
Oh, okay, a
エン
fact?
ジ様の言葉を借りるなら、私たちが自らをそう認めている限り。
それを他者である私が否定するのはまさに暴力だわ。それはきっと実の母にお前なんか生まれてこなければよかったと。
Uh-oh.
いいえ、消えてしまえと
Ouch.
怒鳴りつけられるくらいにね。
Even after being slammed by all those words, Mario Nechan's magic made her believe in her mother's love. Sakutaro, her magic friend, always encouraged her. He kept saying that her mother loved her and that she was coming home late because of her work, and that she would definitely bring back a present. Even after Maria learned that her mother's work wasn't really the cause, magic allowed her to continue believing. So willful ignorance, like not ignorance. What's it called? Lying to oneself. Yeah, but that's how we can read it as. But for Maria, it was different. And by believing that her mother loved her, by acknowledging herself, she filled her world with love and peace and serenity, establishing it completely.
12年前に何があったのか、私の家族がどうなったのか、それを探る旅じゃなかったのよ、これは。
ならこの旅は何なの？
マリアお姉ちゃんにあの日のことを謝る旅だったのよ。
おー。
どうしてかわからないけどそう思うの。あの日彼女を傷つけなければ12年前の事件は起こらなかったんじゃないかって。
Okay.
そう思うの。
Do you believe it was karma? I have no basis for it. I don't have a clue how hurting Mario Nechan could be connected with that mysterious incident several years later. But for some reason, I can't imagine that there is no connection. A witch caused that incident, and the culprit is the Golden Witch Beatrice, and Beatrice was part of the Mariage Sorcière alliance of witches. I horribly hurt the other witch of that alliance. I hurt her with the thought that magic doesn't exist. So several years later, a crime caused by a witch occurred, and a 2-day period that couldn't be explained with anything but magic was thrust in my face, thanks to the message bottle.
きっと私は無関係じゃないのよ。わからない。偶然かもしれないし、運命かもしれない。
So basically you feel like it's karma.
なぜかこの旅で私はそう思うようになったわ。
根拠は？
ないわ。勝手にそう思ってるだけ。
日本人って面白いわね。被害者であっても自分に非があったように感じて勝手に謝り出す。
Damn, Mammon, you're talking almost like Van Ziek's Great Ace Attorney.
家族を奪ったベアトリーチ様憎しって言うなら理解もできるけど、勝手に非を感じて謝りたくなってくるなんて本当に変わってるわ。
もちろんベアトリーチェは憎いわよ。その気持ちがなければこの旅は続かないわ。でも旅にもう一つ目的を見出してもいい。12年前の魔女に復讐する旅にさらに昔の罪を謝罪する目的を加えたっていいんだわ。
Yeah, that's valid.
六軒島に行ってあの日の暴言を詫び花を手向けることくらいはできる。 いえ、花よりもっといいものがあるわ。そしてその方がお姉ちゃんにはふさわしいと思う。
Oh, what you gonna give? I stood up, not minding that the sea breeze scattered my hair, and concentrated my mind. I lifted my palm up to the height of my head and imagined a vast space.
エンジ様、静かに。さあさあ、おいでなさい。我こそは魔女見習い、エンジェ・ベアトリーチェ。破門にされてはしまったけれど、かつて同じ同盟に所属し、私と遊んでくれた
What's
懐
happening?
かしき家具よ。我が呼びかけに応じよ。
It was hard to tell in the middle of the day, but a faint blue light gathered around the palm of my hand. Then, Sakutaro's form was revived! Yeah! Yeah! He's here! It truly did bring back memories, that figure. His cute ears, his bright red muffler. It came off easily, so One-chan faithfully wrapped it all the time, didn't she? Sakutaro! Sakutaro! He's back! Monka S and Komodo hype.
わかる？私たちがわかる？おりょマモン、エンジェ。
With a sleepy face, as though waking up from a long slumber, Sakutaro looked all around him as she spoke.
お久しぶりね、サクタロ。あなたを私の力で呼び出すのは、きっとこれが初めてだわ。
He's back! Yes!
そして今や、私にしか呼び出せない。
おりょ。
Those words might have been a bit cruel. Sakutaro's face clouded over.
かつての私は、あなたを否定した。その私があなたを呼び出したということは、あなたの存在を私が認めたということ。
Yes,
いい
good.
の？僕はエンジェの世界に呼び出されてもいいの？
Yes! His eyes were a bit frightened. It was only natural. I, who had played with him like a friend before, had suddenly denied him and turned to burn him with the magic-resisting toxin. It was only natural that he was scared.
謝るわ、あの日のこと、マモンにも、そしてみんなにも。
Oh! They're all here! The Heel Shift Squad! And at some point, the rest of the seven sisters had gathered on the deck. No, they're always there. Always by my side. As long as I acknowledge that it's okay for them to be there, they'll always appear.
あなたたちは確かに存在するわ。
She's just a little bit taller than them.
ルシファーも、レビアタンも、サタンも、ベルフェゴールも、マモンも、ベルゼブブも、アスモデウスも、そしてサクタローも。
よろしいのですか？エンジェ様はベアトリーチェ様に挑もうというお方、魔女を否定される立場にあられるお方が我らを認めてもよろしいのですか？
私の世界にとって魔法が存在するかどうかは悪いけど保留させてもらうわ。私自身が魔法の存在を認めたわけじゃない。
なのに我らを認めるという矛盾はどういうことです？
魔法は信じる人には存在するってことよ。
That's an interesting way to
私
see
が
it.
信じなくても誰かが信じたならその人の世界には魔法が存在するわ。それは私が魔法を信じたって信じなくたって何の干渉も受けない。いいえ、受けてはいけないのよ。その誰かは胸を張って自らの魔法を信じればいいのよ。
Yes.
そして私はそれを認める。だからあなたたちが存在しても全然おかしくはないのよ。
なかなかの詭弁ですが面白い解釈かと。
エンジェ様のそれは悪魔の証明そのものでしょう。
悪魔の証明？
A devil's proof, huh?
だって悪魔の存在を証明するには悪魔を連れてくればいいけれど、悪魔の存在を否定することだけは不可能だから。
Indeed it is.
そして私たちはここにいる。
Speaking of demons, can I see my favorite demon, please? I want to
つまり
see
それは
him.
エンジェ様が魔法を信じようと信じまいと、私たちの存在は揺るがないということ。
無流？エンジェから半魔法の毒が消えていく。
おお。
本当だわ。魔法を否定する立場なのにどうして？
それは多分
She has found the perfect balance, I guess.
尊重し認めるという心を知ったからだわ。
Good.
今の私にならマリアお姉ちゃん、そしてベアトリーチェの魔法の深淵も理解できるかもしれない。
In the past, I didn't believe in things like magic. Thinking something like that couldn't exist, I acted like I was closing my eyes tightly and couldn't see anything. But now I'm different. I get the feeling I can look right at the thing called magic and close on its true nature.
惜しいわ。この現代にこれだけ半魔法の毒素の抜けた人間なんて本当に稀よ。魔女に向いた稀有な才能なのに。
そうね。今のエンジェ様が魔女を目指してくださったなら、ベアトリーチェ様に及ぶかもしれない大魔女に成長されたかもしれないのに。
それでも我らの存在を認めてくださった我らの主である。おそらくエンジェ様が我らの最後の主となるだろう。
Oh,
最後の奉公と思い尽力しようではないか。
that's sad.
なのにエンジェ様自身がまだ魔法を信じてくれないのが納得いかない。エンジェ様、ついでに魔法も認めてくださいよ。せっかくの主なのに魔女じゃないなんてなんだかもったいない。
最高の魔女になれる逸材なのに、その目的が魔女を撃つことだなんて惜しいです。まあそれもエンジェ様の人生で生き方でそうと決めた世界ならば、それは私たちにとやかく口出しできることではないわけですが。
私を理解してくれて
Mammon looks thrilled.
そうね。魔法が私にとって存在するかどうか、それは私が決めることだわ。世界のどこかに魔法が実在したとしてもしなかったとしてもね。
When I think about it, this world is so vast and yet so small. Billions of people live on the earth, but I probably won't meet even 1% of those people. Even so, I will speak of a world. My world, which doesn't even 1% of the world.
私が知らない世界の法則を私に否定する資格なんてない。だから私の世界に魔法が存在しないからといって私の知らない世界に魔法が存在することまでを否定することはできない。まさに悪魔の証明というわけだわ。いえ、業に入りては業に従えというべきかしら。
I can be confident in the world I know. So even if that's denied by a complete stranger who doesn't know a thing about my world, there's nothing to worry about. And in the same way, I've got no right to deny a world I don't know. Just because I don't know about it.
だから
Oh, that's a new sprite.
私は自分の世界に魔法があるかないかを問わずにマリアお姉ちゃんが教えてくれた魔法を否定することなんてできやしない。
Yes.
無理だって見たことがなくても魔法は存在するんだもん。
ええ、だからすでに言っている通り、魔女同盟マリアージュ・ソルシエルの友人である私にも、そして誰にも否定することなんてできないわけ。
I proclaim that most important part again. Even though the sea breeze and the crashing of the waves were noisy, it was a time of silence. Both Sakutaro and the Seven Sisters of Purgatory reflected upon my words, and probably I did too. Does magic exist? Do witches exist? While ignoring what the answer would be for my own world, I acknowledged their existence. That contradiction was what I proclaimed so boldly.
ありがとう、エンジェ。
そこまでお認めになったなら魔女もお認めになって。
Nah, she probably will say no.
いえ、愚問でした。その問いに対する答えをすでにエンジェ様は明確にお持ちだ。
ごめんね。魔女がこの世界のどこかにいるかもしれないことを。でも私の世界は揺るがない。
魔女も魔法も認めない。六軒島の真実は必ず暴いてみせるでしょ。
ええ、
Oh
それが
man.
私の世界よ。仮に本当に魔女が存在したとしても私の世界では認めないわ。当の魔女にどれだけ言い寄られたとしてもね。
エンジェ様のお立場は魔女を撃つこと、そしてそのお気持ちにいささかの揺らぎもないこと、よくわかりました。我らはエンジェ様の家具、煉獄の七姉妹、いつでもおそばに、お役に立てる日が来るのをいつまでもお待ち申し上げております。
The sisters must be thinking, yes, finally we get to attack witches.
エンジェ様が魔法を信じてくれない以上、話し相手くらいにしかなれないけれど、
今は十分よ。私たちに存在できる余地を残してくれ。それだけで私たちはエンジェ様に感謝し認めるべきだわ。
つまり私たちは
またみんなといられるんだね。
Only Maria's missing.
サクタロー、モフモフさせて。
When Sakutaro was overcome with emotion and tears came to his eyes, the seven sisters closed in and mobbed him. They were also celebrating a long missed reunion. If their existence is permitted, they are definitely capable of existing here. No, even if I don't permit it, they can exist. Because I acknowledge them, they show their reunion's joy to me as well. As I watched over that scene, I reflected over what this journey of mine meant. Sakutaro, yes! I love him! He's such a baby. I'm so happy he's back.
みんなには許してもらえたかしら。
十分ですよ。私たちは家具、呼び出してもらえるだけで、おそばにいることを許されるだけで嬉しいのですから。ウリュウ、エンジェ、本当にありがとう。
そういえばどうして私にはサクタロウが呼び出せたのかしら。
Good question. I'd like to know too.
いいえ、逆ね。どうしてお姉ちゃんにはサクタロウが呼び出せなかったのかしら。
Mario Nechan had despair, thinking that Sakutaro had died, which meant she hadn't been able to summon him like this anymore. In the past, Onechan said it was more advantageous in a summoning to have a vessel. However, a vessel like this is like training wheels, and it shouldn't be absolutely necessary. In other words, even if the stuffed animal lion that was Sakutaro's vessel didn't exist, it should have been possible to summon him. No, when you put it like that, it's even a little doubtful whether summoned things can be limited by life and death. Moreover, Sakutaro should have been an especially important friend to Mario Nechan. He should have been able to strive hard to summon him one more time. It certainly was sad that the original stuffed animal vessel had been torn apart, but why did he die and become impossible to summon again? That's a good question. I'd like to know.
それはマリアがあの時僕のぬいぐるみが破れたのを見て、僕が死んでしまったと。
And decided that I died. Oh,
魔法の
Maria.
存在と同じなんです。マリア教の世界でサクタロウが死んでしまったことになったなら、彼女の世界ではサクタロウは存在できない。
Oh,
ウリュウ。
that's so sad. The shock of having her beloved stuffed animal torn apart had left a wound in her heart serious enough to prevent her from summoning her irreplaceable close friend. Thanks for the trauma, Rosa. In Mario Nechan's eyes, Sakutaro died. So even if Sakutaro can exist like this to me, he cannot exist before her.
僕はいつもマリアと一緒にいたんだよ。泣いてるマリアのすぐ近くで、泣かないでってずっと言ってたんだよ。でもマリアには僕の姿も声も何も届かなくて。
Sakutaro hung his head, looking sad.
マリアージュ・ソルシエルはあの事件の後急に性格を変えていくの。それまでの同盟は和やかなものだった。でも事件後は憎い誰かをいかにして呪うかという物騒なものばかり。
Okay.
お姉ちゃんの日記はあからさまに様変わりしていくの。
Oh boy, oh Maria. Oh. That explains the way she behaved in episode 1 and 2, actually. Because I think she wouldn't have acted that, you know, when all the parents had been gouged open in the second game, she was laughing while everyone else was crying, and I think that's one of those changes that happened after this incident, right? That in a way, I don't know, that she closed off her heart a little bit, I guess. A diary is a mirror that reflects one's heart as it is. It probably showed me the personality called Maria die and be reborn as the evil witch personality Maria. When she buried that diary in hatred and sadness, her heart surely wasn't satisfied. Because it wasn't satisfied, she had to bury it with hatred and sadness. And while still unsatisfied, she met with death. Oh. I wonder if her unsatisfied soul has a hole open in its chest from sadness even now, and continuously wanders, dripping tears down and calling Sakutaro's name. Oh, Maria.
お姉ちゃんには必要なのよ。
ウリュウ。
どうしたらあなたをマリアお姉ちゃんの世界で蘇らせられるの？その方法がわかれば、私はお姉ちゃんを救うことができる。それが私に課せられた贖罪の方法なのよ。どうすればサク太郎は蘇るの？
マリアにとって僕のよりしろは特に重要な意味を持ってたから。
よりしろ、つまりライオンのぬいぐるみを蘇らせることができれば。
でも僕のぬいぐるみはローザママの手作りだから、ローザママにしか作れない。
And Rosa is dead. Even inside the diary, Mario Nechan had asked this of Beatrice and refused for that reason. The magical significance of a stuffed animal being unique and handmade is very large. Then, if I could make the same thing once more, but Aunt Rosa has already gone from this world, we can't make the same thing again.
同じぬいぐるみをもう一つ作ってあったとか、そういうことはないの？
彼はマリア教の誕生日プレゼントのために作られた世界でたった一つのぬいぐるみ、手作りでたった一つのよりしろなんです。
Oh, what about the drawing?
だから大きな魔力を秘めているんです。そして
You know, the drawing that was drawn to give Sakutaro his human form?
手に入らない、蘇らない。ウリュウ。
Because she knew that, Mario-nechan watched that stuffed animal which was unique in that world get torn apart, and despaired, because it was the only one of its kind in the world, and she couldn't permit a compromise such as buying another one. She had despair from the bottom of her heart.
でも、サク太郎はここにいるわ。よりしろなんかなくても、ここにいる。私がそれを認めているから、私の世界では確かに存在する。マリアお姉ちゃんが認めなくても、それは否定できない。そうよね。
理屈ではそうですが、同じ理屈でマリア教にそれを認めさせることもまた困難かと思います。
We have to meet Maria.
僕は死んでないよ。ここにいるのに。ウリュウ。
きっと六軒島でマリアお姉ちゃんに私は再会できると思う。そして私は何が何でもお姉ちゃんの中のあなたを蘇らせて再会させるわ。
できるの？
難しいでしょうね。魔女同盟に誘われた私が意味を理解できず拒絶してしまったのと同じように、彼女もまたあなたの存在を拒絶するかもしれない。でもやるしかないわ。それが私にできる唯一の罪滅ぼしなのよ。
And to let Maria's soul finally rest.
六軒島で何が待つのか、そして何が起こるのか、あるいは何も起こらないのかもしれない。すべての始まりであるあの島こそがこの旅の終着点なのよ。私はあなたたちを連れて魔女の家具であるあなた魔女の島へ、六軒島へ帰らなければならない。
Let's go home. Even though the rays of the sun had been so strong, at some point clouds had started to hang down. The spray that hit my cheek might not all have come from crashing waves.
エンジェさん、軽く一雨来そうですぜ。下へ降りた方がいいんじゃないですか?
Amakusa called out to me with an expression that said, "Oh, you're still here!" When I looked up, I saw that the island silhouette had gotten much larger. We might reach land very soon. I remembered that the weather report had mentioned scattered rains. The sky wasn't dark enough for rain clouds. It would probably be just for a short time. Even though the rain was light enough not to be a pain, having rain start to fall as we approached the island felt like some kind of fate. It was raining on October 4th, 1986 as well. I'm approaching at the Rockin' Dream that day, and not just in the distance. I went back down with Amakusa. He was carrying what looked like a really large and heavy golf bag. It was something Amakusa had brought back with him on a day we'd split up. I didn't inquire as to its contents, but it was hard to imagine that they were anything peaceful. They were probably, weaponry.
中身はあえて聞かないけど、重そうね。
どうしてこいつらは重くてかなわないのか。
Guns, snipes.
フランス人の教官が面白いことを教えてくれました。何でもこいつらは重くあるべきだそうなんです。何しろ。
Because they're
人の
loaded?
命は地球より重いんですから。こいつらはもっと重くて叱るべきなんだとか。
使う機会がないといいわね。
ないといいですな。
Amakusa set the golf bag like luggage down beside him. Oh, that's a helicopter. That's a plane. A two-propeller aircraft touched down the runway. Considering the weather, it couldn't have been a pleasant flight. Everything after this flight had been suspended due to weather. Ah shit, it's her! Let me go to the bathroom real quick. Okay, I'm back. Oh boy. Cutting through the drizzle as she traversed the runaway, Sumadera Kazumi entered the lobby with two black suits as guards. The four black suits who had been waiting inside the lobby stood and respectfully lowered their heads in a salute.
お疲れ様です。
プロペラ機ってのは揺れるわね。二度と乗りたくないわ。
お車を用意しております。どうぞこちらへ。
They got into two luxury cars that had been rented.
エンジェは六軒島へ向かうはずよ。無人島とは実に都合がいいわね。
Arranged for some tools. Lady, are you planning to kill her? The black suit in the passenger seat put a heavy bag that had been set by his feet onto his lap. opened the cache with a click and showed Kazumi what was inside. Inside were several silver lumps of carefully wrapped aluminum oil. He peeled one open to show her. A black, blunt automatic pistol peeked its face out. Of course. Things to kill her. Why'd you want to kill Ange? No! Oh boy. Oh, the first day, 1986. So we're going back to the past. I'm thinking about stopping here to go to bed, but at the same time, like, since we're in the past, I want to see if there's a chance that Ronove shows up. I wonder if I continue for like 30 minutes or something. Let me just check if Beato shows up, and if I see humans, then I'm gonna be like, okay, then next time. It was already approaching 10 at night. By now the typhoon had wrapped itself around Rokkenjima. Even the rose garden had looked so beautiful midday, was beaten down upon the fierce winds and resisted with all its might, undulating and trying to keep the flowers from blowing away. In that rose garden was Shannon in the lead, Batter holding up an umbrella, Jessica and George carrying the sleeping Mario on his back, all heading for the guest house.
Guest house くらい俺たちだけでも行けるってのにいいんだぜシャノンちゃん戻って休んでてくれよ
Let me see what happens.
いいえ、お送りするのも仕事ですので。
親族会議中はうちのお母さんとか源氏さんもピリピリしてるからな。下手に私たちが気を利かせるとシャノンがサボってると勘違いされちゃう。
そうだね。素直にお世話になった方がむしろ迷惑をかけないだろうね。ありがとうシャノン。
いい
え、Yes, baby.
確かにお嬢様のおっしゃられます通り、今日のお屋敷はピリピリしています。だから私も皆さんとご一緒して外の空気が吸えるのでちょっと肩が楽です。
親族会議わざわざ俺たち子供を追い出すくらいだから相当タチの悪い話をするんだろうぜ。
だろうね。
Oh, I think they're probably only going to talk about the inheritance.
僕たちはきっと何の力にもなれない。せめて邪魔をしないようにするのが一番の協力だと思うよ。
どうせまた金って話だろうぜ。
マニーマニーマニー。
普段散々金持ちだと吹聴してるくせにいざとなったらもったいぶりやがる。パーッと気前よくみんなで山分けすりゃいいのによ。
そりゃ豪快な話だぜ。
Jessica's right.
俺にも分け前がもらえりゃいいのによ。
Yes, give the kids money too.
もし俺にももらえたらそん時はシャノンちゃんにも分けてやるからな。
Okay.
どうもありがとうございます。お気持ちだけで嬉しいです。
シャノンは欲がないね。年頃の女の子なら買いたいものがいっぱいあるだろうに。
そうですね。でも私欲しいものの中にお金で買えるものがありませんので。
You mean love?
ひゅー無欲だな。俺なんか欲しいもん全部並べたら
And,
金がい
probably
くらあっても足りねえぜ。
Better employers. George in the background saying soon.
お金で買えるものにはだぜ。シャノンの言う金で買えない欲しいものって何かな。ジョージ兄さんは心当たりある？
さあなんだろうね。
He's like, oh, I
シャノンじゃ
wonder.
ないとわからないね。
私にもわかりません。
Damn, he's dodging. George and Shannon looked down, their faces red. Batter had also also heard about what was going on with them, so he knew that what Jessica was teasing them about.
ジョージの兄貴は俺にとっても尊敬できるお人だ。シャノンちゃんは本当にいい人と巡り会えたと思うぜ。
I guess I'm not seeing my favorite demon butler tonight. Sad.
だな。私もジョージ兄さんなら
But
安
at
心
least
して
I'm
シャノ
gonna
ンを
finish
任
this
せられ
scene
るぜ。
then.
から
This
かうのは
is
よしてくれ
episode
よ。
3 or 4? It's 4.
僕たちにとっては真面目な問題なんだ。それよりジェシカちゃんの方だってどうなんだい？カノン君と少しは仲良くなれたのかい？
お前カノン君とそういう仲なのかよ。
Yes. And they are very cute.
汚いぜジョージ兄さん。そういう話の切り返し方は汚いぜ。
She's like, George, you fucking snitch. As they had an animated discussion with ups and downs, the four kids headed for the guest house. The annual family conference was extremely important to the Oshiromiya family, and this year seemed like it was going to be especially important. Apparently, the family head Kinzo was probably going to be making a very serious announcement. And everyone other than the adults had been strictly ordered to leave. Beato hadn't attended the family conference in 6 years, so he didn't really notice. But according to Jessica, there seemed to be a very tense atmosphere tonight, completely different from a normal year. Common sense made it clear that Kinzo, whose remaining life was short, was going to make some big announcement about the succession of the headship and the distribution of his fortune. Oh!
しかし驚いたな。
Am I going to see the man?
まさか本当にじい様が登場するとは。
なるほど。これが魔女の反撃というわけね。
Beato, my beloved!
金蔵というジョーカーはもう少し伏せていたかったところだが、そろそろ切るのが頃合いであろう。切り札は切るためにある。
くそ、じい様は最初から死んでて、その代わりに謎の18人目が紛れ込んでるっていう俺のここに来ていきなりバッサリってわけか。
いつかはそなたが金蔵を疑いに来ることは読めておったわ。さあさあ、これでそなたの推理は再びゼロに戻ったぞ。金蔵は最初から死んでいて、その代わりにわらわが18人目として紛れ込んでいたという推理はこれでパーだ。
Thank you, Beato. That was very delightful.
くすだがくじけねえぞ。
Oh shit, Beato said fuck!
一つの推理が外れただけだ。嵐のように暴風のように襲いかかってやる。
そうでなくてはな、そうでなくてはな。まだまだ第一の晩祭始まっていないぞ。屈服にはあまりに早すぎる。
そうね。そして赤き真実で否定されたわけでもない。
Oh, she has a point.
今この瞬間の時点でまだバトラの説は破られたわけではない。勝ったつもりになるのも早すぎるわよ。
そうだな。確かにあっさり鵜呑みにするにはまだ早いな。じい様がいよいよ登場するということにはなってるが、やっぱり体調が悪くなった云々言って現れない可能性だってある。じい様は本当は死んでいるという事実をクラウスおじさんがギリギリまで苦し紛れで引き伸ばしているだけかもしれない。
なるほどなるほど、そういう考え方もあるか。
Okay.
好きにするがよい。すぐに決着する。すぐにな。
Let's see. No, I hate my. I'm suffering from Demon Butler withdrawal. Let me see the time. 3 hours of stream. I think I should stop here. Let's save this for the next time. I was getting a little bit greedy. And it's better if I start reading the rest next week. Because I don't want to rush this either, so I can't wait. I can't wait. But I hope he shows up next episode, next stream, because I am suffering withdrawal at this moment. Yeah, title back. Let's go! Okay. Now, let me, before I finish for tonight, let me see what, if there's anybody that I can raid. Not edit stream info, what the hell am I doing? Well, it looks like I can raid Eddie again. He's usually the only channel that's online after I finish streaming, so let's do that. I'm gonna raid Eddie. Check the song I sent on Twitter. Okay, I'll do so right after the stream. Okay, then thanks everybody for coming tonight. I'm gonna be raiding over Eddie, and next Tuesday I'm gonna do some art, and next Thursday I'll probably be doing Umineko already, because I want to see what happens next very badly. So, alright, the schedule for Thursday and beyond will be up next week already. But just so everybody knows, next week, Tuesday, we start off with art, and then we go on Thursdays for Umineko. Alright. See ya, everybody, and have a good night. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.